हेलो। गए नहीं, घर से करनी है ना वो लीगल मेट्रोलॉजी की। हाँ हाँ, कर रहा हूँ, बोलो। अभी स्टार्ट के मतलब जो है होने वाली है।
I think there was some technical problem due to which I was not connected. So I think everybody is able to hear me.
Yes.
Am I audible? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I am audible. Thank you. So, sir, this is the program basically for the accreditation bodies, and we have with us Professor R.K. Kotnala, who is the chairman of NABL, and as we are all aware about him, he is basically an INODA in the project. Is having the research fellowship from them, and he is working from National Physical Laboratory, having a lot of big experience of National Physical Laboratory, a lot of research papers, and he's also working a new project developing this energy, electricity from the water. So I have seen this facility by my own personally. Sir, first of all, I would like to request you to kindly speak, give us the inaugural address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ashutosh Agarwal. Good morning to all. I am very happy to be with all stakeholders for fostering quality infrastructure across the country. Special efforts from the Department of Consumer Affairs and Department of Legal Metrology, especially Mr. Bineet Mathur, Joint Secretary, Mr. B.N. Dikshit, and Mr. Ashutosh Agrawal. could provide today's platform to industries and labs. A very important topic, understanding of ISO IEC 17011. General requirement for accreditation bodies has been organized in this seminar. We all know. It's basically one of the brilliant idea that industries, the stakeholders are to be make aware of 17011. I'll come to that, why it is needed, and the other speakers, our experts, will also speak. Because one of the expert, our Dr. Reena Sharma is there, Shaili Sharma is there, and more experts will also speak on the topic. The question comes, why should the stakeholder understand ISO 17011? Because that's our one of the main theme of the workshop. Answer is very simple. It is a necessity of the day, as India is striving hard to have a complete high quality standards for all the items being used in our day-to-day life. Day-to-day life, it includes whether it's a food, it's environment, it's a the machinery, the gadgets, what we are using, or our automotives. So name anything, whether even civil engineering, where do we stay? So in all spheres of the life, we must have a high standard of quality. But the question comes, will say that we certify ourselves? No. It must be compatible with the globally acceptable standards to enhance economy also. It is not only the convenience and the welfare of the society, but also it has got a big impact on our economy. If this is the situation, then how to achieve best quality system? This is a big question mark, how to achieve. Achieving how much we are doing will be coming in detail in the different sessions. India has got about 6 lakhs laboratories or industries engaged in testing of different parameters. So number is big. Such a huge number needs more accreditation bodies in India for the smooth functioning of testing and calibration. Because if it's such a huge number and all are to be put under the quality system, then definitely we need to have the different accreditation bodies. Because we know already NABL is there, then there are some foreign accreditation bodies are there, IAF, IAS, others, right? They're also working here from their own country, and some of them have got the office over here in India. But still, there is a big gap. If there is a big gap, then how to achieve it? Because like NABL is one of the biggest accrediting body for the laboratories, and you will see that around 7,000 labs are being accredited in a year. So that is the system of NABL is providing. But if it is approximately 7,000 labs, it's a small number compared to the 6 lakhs. So if that is the situation, then can we enhance the scope and I'll say the accreditation strength of the NABL? Yes, that can be done. Because NABL is active for a long time in India. But there had been a lot of dissatisfaction of the different laboratories and as well as the institutes who feel that is taking a long time, because any accreditation time is fixed for a any of the lab or any of the accrediting body. If that is the situation, that if we take a long time to get accredited a particular industry, so there is a lot of agony, the problems, and as well as the economic loss to them, because they cannot pursue, they cannot do it. That shows that we need a speedy system where we can work, accreditation can be in a quicker fashion. We know already the Department of Legal Metrology has already got the regional research laboratories in India for the length, mass, time, meters, energy, and volume. But what we could see, what we could find, that they themselves realized on this, that this kind of a regional laboratories which were completely governed by the Department of Legal Metrology. So with the NAVL, and I was initiating that program with the Mr. Ashutosh Agarwal, then Joint Secretary Mr. B.N. Dixit, that how to circumvent and overcome that situation, because delay was going on. There was a big dissatisfaction in the country from the different consumers. So what was decided, that let us open it up, open that the legal metrology accreditation and the testing can be done by the other labs which are enable accredited. So approximately 2 years have passed, but they opened up. Legal metrology department opened up for this, for the welfare of the consumers, that they should go for it, and they let the others to take it up. Of course, we find, because it's I know that the actual situation. So not a, I'll say the good lead has come out of it. How it is to be done? So let's say Department of Legal Metrology is trying hard how it can be done. But in this case, when we find that there is a difficulty, some legal metrology had come its own. They took an initiative that let's open it up for other labs. So once they come up as a open it up, that means what? For the sake of the or interest of the consumers, and as well as for the sake of implementing a good quality system quickly in the country. So there was a one big initiative, and this big initiative has been already taken. Similarly, when I keep on listening from the different labs, they grumble about it, that they are not able to get their accreditation faster. Then there are the problems, because in a 17011, if we look at the accreditation body, has got the set norms which are at a international certification, and it speaks that if you are following for the medical, for the chemical, for the CRMs, for the your 17025. So those certificates, if any of the lab is already certified, and the similar courses already Mr. Ashutosh Agrawal and Mr. B.N. Dixit has given, provided at this platform free in the earlier seminar. So similarly, if they know that, but then they must know that also all stakeholders should know that what is 17011, so that they can gear up for themselves, because sometimes labs are not aware of that what is the requirement of accrediting body. Of course, it's given on the different accreditation bodies, but we should get into the original. Original means which is limited to the 17011, and not that with so many documents. There are the other documents which have been quality documents, they call. The every accreditation body is making of their own. for the with the interest of I'll say the lab or the industries, so that it will support them and it will make it easier. So now, if any of the lab is being accredited by our 17011, because that's the accrediting body, whether it's in from India or abroad, it's not a question. They have to go through this some of the documents in a different way. Understanding of it will really make them happy and to make their life easier. Life easier in the sense they can do their business, they can work for the society, for the welfare of society, to implement our quality infrastructure. So this is one of the big initiative, and which needs to be told and spread and make aware not only industries, labs, assessors also, and as well as the other government organizations which are also the part of this seminar, so that if there is any kind of a I'll say the clause have been created or document have been created by any accreditation body, which is I'll call it a obsolete or not a stakeholders um, interest or the welfare of it. So, and definitely it must follow a high standards of the quality. That should not be diluted. So, this workshop will certainly provide that kind of information to all stakeholders, and I'm sure uh, this will make um, our quality infrastructure across India more stronger and stronger day by day. So I thank you all to participate into this very, very important um, seminar, and let's move ahead. I'll say special thank to Mr. Ashutosh also. Please.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words, sir. You are always with us for making this system. Basically, we need a system, infrastructural system or SI system, which should be implemented in the country. Certainly, sir, these standards will play a very important role for the industrial growth and to make this country 5 trillion economy as soon as possible, which is the dream of our Honorable Prime Minister of India. So we have with us our Joint Secretary, sir, Shri Hirit Mathur Sahab. And sir, he is always with us whenever I request him. He's so kind of and enough, always ready to help us wherever required. And he is here to help us to just say, I would like to request Mathur Sahab to say a few words so that we can do something better, what we are doing and where are the gaps which we have to fill in the country's infrastructure development. Sir, Mathur sir, please.
Good morning, friends. Good morning, participants to this national workshop. Professor R.K. Kotnalaji, my colleague Shri B.N. Dikshit, Director of Legal Metrology in the Ministry, Ashutosh Agarwalji, who's the Deputy Director in the Ministry and also Head of the Regional Reference Standards Laboratory, Ahmedabad, friends, panelists. It is indeed very heartening to have this workshop, which is very close to my heart, about the general requirements of the standardization and accreditation bodies in the country and ISO 17011. I think I've been the head of the National Test House also, and it is extremely close. I've watched how the NABL accreditation is required and the documentation and its importance for the economy and the testing environment per se. Now, as Ashutosh has mentioned, in many of the meetings, our Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Minister for Consumer Affairs, Food and Textiles, Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyalji, have been emphasizing that the quality of products which are manufactured in the country is of grave importance. because it supports exports across the world. It supports harmonization of standards with the international organizations and acceptance of our material products and services abroad. So that is of core importance. The current government and its direction is to support multilateral agreements where our products, which are of high quality, and if they are internally tested by our laboratories and their certifications are provided, are accepted internationally across the world, and there is a support to international trade of those items and services. The standardization is also required for international imports and their testing in the country. So we have a concept of anything which is to be imported in the country and it is under the QCO in the country. We explore how their processes and their testing is done internationally when that particular item is manufactured and they wish to ship it in the country. So it is to be tested in that particular country and tested in the Indian environment also by our NABL accredited laboratories. So it becomes extremely important that we have high quality laboratory systems and their certification and processes are well laid out and internationally accepted so that our acceptance of our products and services internationally is very good. Let me give you one example which I'm recently facing, and I sit in some of the government committees. This is related to a textile product called Pashmina. And Pashmina is exported internationally from, it's largely manufactured in our Jammu and Kashmir region. And there are hardly any testing laboratories for that kind of a textile product, and they largely do not are not in a position to certify, and their processes are also, I don't think they are NABL accredited, which is affecting the exporters. So consignments go abroad in European countries like Germany, Europe, and there when they test those products and services, they probably are rejected or sent back on some reason or other. So this kind of an environment is existing in many of the products and services. So the government is looking at filling in the gaps. So we need to possibly look into what are the products and services which are internationally traded to begin with and substantially also utilized in the domestic industry, and they are tested in high quality laboratories, and that testing environment is harmonized to the international standards. These are accredited to international procedures, whether they're MIS system, whether they're manufacturing or testing procedure, and all these are certified by a highly reputed national standards body, which is like an NABL. I understand that is an Herculean task, and there are a lot of pockets which require maybe accreditation, and we have limited manpower or support systems. But we should evolve technology and processes so that we are able to support all segments of the testing laboratories. Professor Kotnala just mentioned that there are more than 6 lakh testing facilities in the country. Some are in the government sector, many are now in the private segment, and there is a requirement to upgrade their standards and quality processes for testing. Their accreditations have to be robust and regular so that we are able to support manufacture and trade across the country. The domestic market itself is a huge market. The consumers have a lot of grievances on the products which they receive or buy here, and largely it is because of there is no standardized protocol for testing or getting certifications in the country. So products are selling which may not be secure also, but these are utilized in the country. They are not tested anywhere. Although we have an ISI marking regulatory requirement for helmets and pressure cookers to be sold in India and tested in maybe NABL accredited laboratories, but many of the brands are still selling in the country which are hardly tested. Their processes are not certified, and they are being sold without the certifications which are mandatorily required. It is importance and safety of the consumer which is foremost, and our labs and their standards of testing and their transparency of the recorded results of testing is of grave importance. How much stress we are pushing into our 17011 or maybe many other procedure systems where there is a requirement of a transparency on what exactly has been tested, what are the findings, where exactly do they stand against the parameters for that particular product or service is of importance. And that should build confidence in the domestic consumer, domestic industry, and international industry. That is how we are going to reach a 3 trillion or a $4 trillion economy mark, because we need to support our domestic market, its purchases, but all products have to be safe. So I understand in my uh, understanding and experience of this particular ministry and having worked with the scientific organizations here, that laboratory system and its testing is a must. There are huge gaps, and we as probably managers or maybe the policy guidance people or industry need to probably look into to fill these gaps, support them, bring in international technology in testing and accreditation procedures, and support the large number of laboratories which are there, because many of these are very niche, testing laboratories. They may be doing a few products or maybe not a bouquet of the standard also. If 77 tests are required in testing of packaged drinking water, many of the laboratories are hardly doing 30, 35, 40 tests, and yet they get some sort of maybe an accreditation, or maybe the samples flow into them. So we have to bring in a comprehensive testing mechanism, accreditation system, adherence to international standards, and push our way forward. We will certainly be the most leading economy in the next 5 or 7 years if we follow this. I thank RRSL for organizing this extremely important interaction and a workshop. I hope it will be of great boon to all our experts here, practitioners and industry and consumers, if they are also listening, at what is the importance of quality maybe testing systems. So I wish all success for these interactions today and maybe later in the part of the interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your kind words. You are always behind us with the light of hope that certainly we can do better, which we are trying, and we are certainly do better for the development of the standardization in the country. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Professor Kotala sir. So today and tomorrow we have these 2 days program. And we have with us Professor Reena Sharma, who is from National Physical Laboratory. She is a scientist having more than 30 years of experience in NPL. She's a professor of this academy in National Physical Laboratory, have written many 30 research papers. He's having a lot of experience in metrology. She's the most important point is she is basically an APEC peer evaluator for 17011, which is very important, and that's why you requested, and she is so kind. She immediately say, yes, I will certainly do this program for both of the days. And certainly, ma'am, thank you very much for your kind help. And she's also a member of these many of committees of BIS, NIBL. But ma'am, what is this? I come to know what is ISOIEC. Will you let me know what is ISOIEC? Your voice,
Indian
mic is off.
Scientist Association.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And sir, we have another very good friend, Miss Shali Sharma. Basically, now she's settled in the US, and she is also very kind. Right now, it is at 1 o'clock in the night, and she is here to just help us for this program, to make this program successful. She is also an APEC evaluator for 17011, and that's why we requested both of us to kindly make our persons who are sitting in this program to understand what is this standard 17011. Certainly it will help us. She has done a lot of work in NABL. I know her since last many years with the NABL, and she was doing well over there. But now as she's in US, we thought that why we should allow her to left her. She should continue with us, and that's why we requested her. And thank you very much, ma'am. You are here. Thank you. Thank you. So, sir, first of all, I would like to now request Ma'am Reena Sharma ma'am to kindly start this, because we are already late. For 2 days, we have only 8 hours in which we have to complete this whole standard. Sir, thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody and all the participants who are here, and request. I would like to request Madam Reena Sharma to kindly start the presentation. Please, ma'am. Your mic is off, ma'am.
Respected Shri Mathurji, Shri Ashutosh Agarwal, and Dr. Kotnala, it's my pleasure to be here, and my job has been simplified a little bit because the introduction part has been very nicely summed up by Shri Mathurji by saying how we can help our artisans. For example, when he gave example of Pashmina, and similarly Dr. Kotnala already highlighted the need for accreditation and need for following the standard 17011. So job is simplified. Nevertheless, I will start with a little bit introduction, and then I will go to 17011. Clause 3 and 4 we will cover today, and then up to clause 4, and then today in the forenoon, and in afternoon then my friend Shelley will be covering clause 7, 8, and tomorrow then we will be doing 5, 6 by myself, and 9 by my friend Shelley. So this will be the thing. So I would just share my PowerPoint. I think it's visible now.
Yes.
Okay, and my voice is not cracking now, Ashutosh ji? Voice
Yes,
is
ma'am.
okay. So I'll start with this. First, I will give a little bit introduction, and then we will go to 17011. So as has been highlighted by both my pre-speakers, our secretary and chairman of NABL, both have highlighted the need for national quality infrastructure, which India has very well established national quality infrastructure. So as you know, there are 4 elements to it. One is that whenever we are exporting or importing any item, we need to conform certain written requirements that is given for in India by, for example, this is called written standards. In India, it is the Body Bureau of Indian Standards which is doing this. Similarly, when we are seeing the conformity to these requirements, measurement will play a role. So for measurement, all the international standards are to be followed, and also SI units are to be realized. So as per Gadget rules of legal metrology, chapter 3 gives right to NPL, that is National Physical Laboratory, to be the National Metrology Institute, that is to be custodian of measurement standard. So this is the 2 organizations which are involved in requirement, and when testing calibration is done, then apex level standards, all the realization of SI units, etc., will be with NPL. So that is 2 part. Legal metrology takes care of enforcement part of it, and seeing whether legal metrology sees that consumer is not cheated, and for that they have their own requirements, and this comes under Department of Consumer Affairs. So this is how the 4 organization. Now you see MPL is doing maintaining the standards, but in country there is a large need of calibration and testing. So there are large number of government and private and public sector calibration testing laboratories. Now whether these testing calibration laboratories have competence, are they doing their job clearly, following the standards with great honesty, with technical competence, with environment, instruments, you say competence in all sense. So who is going to check that? So that comes under accreditation. So accreditation in India, accreditation boards are, or accreditation bodies are under QCI, umbrella of QCI, which is an autonomous body, Quality Council of India. So when we talk of, then we have these 4 pillars. Each of these pillars is having a very important role, taking the load of the or bearing, maintaining this our roof or umbrella of national quality infrastructure. All four of them are very much interlinked because, for example, without traceability or national measurement standards, we cannot check conformity. And if we are checking conformity, then only will come the rule of accreditation, etc. Similarly, if enforcement is not there, our consumers' right will not be protected. So these all four are very much related, and these are the basis of, or you can say, four important pillars of our national quality infrastructure. So certification bodies, inspection bodies, testing calibration laboratories, all have to be accredited by a accreditation body, and accreditation bodies are supposed to follow 17011. Now, who asked them to do this, and whether accreditation bodies are doing their job clearly, following the standards and international norms, that comes under the international and regional MRAs, mutual recognition arrangements. Like, for example, if NPL is following measurement standards and it is realizing SI units, whether it is doing as per the norms that are, whether it is following 17025, whether it is following international standards, all that will be peer reviewed by mutual recognition bodies, because we have signed BIPM MRA, and BIPM MRA, that is international MRA, and international is the top. And after BIPM MRA, we will be following the, we will be reaching there through our regional MRA, that is Asia Pacific Metrology Program. Similarly, when it will come to, for example, NABL under QCI, they will have regional MRA, which is APAC, Asia Pacific Accreditation Program, and that which will link them to ILAC MRA. So this way, our national quality infrastructure is linked to our international, and that is how exporters, when Vineet Mathurji was saying that their rights will be taken care of, exporters, it will be helping exporters, and down the line it also helps the consumer, as I showed in my previous line. So this is how regional and international MRAs go. For example, in ILAC, recognized regional cooperation MRAs, we have these IAC, EA, European. So we fall under Asia Pacific, that is Asia Pacific Accreditation Program, which is here, that is third APAC. Okay, so this is there, you can see my cursor. So that is the case. So similarly, like ILAC MRA, we also have IAF MRA. So under IAF MLA, they call it MLA, that is multilateral recognition arrangement. ILAC calls it mutual recognition arrangement. IAF call it multilateral mutual recognition arrangement. So this is IAF, that is International Accreditation Forum. So this is again various accreditation bodies that are granting management system certification, standard accreditation, accreditation to those certification bodies, etc. So these are various standards that come under 17 IAF MRA. So the boards of QCI, depending on in which regime they are, either they are following IAF MLA or following ILAC MRA and APEC MRA. So, for example, NABLB will be following APEC MRA, whereas NABCB will be following under IFMLA. So that will be the case. So these are various standards with that these people are following. That is comes under IAF. That will be like, for example, 14065. This will be about the bodies performing validation verification. Similarly, for 13485 for medical devices, and so on. So we are talking of these. When we go there, in here, we say these accreditation bodies are giving accreditation to conformity assessment. So before I go to formal definition, let us discuss what is conformity assessment. So conformity assessment, first is conforming to the requirement. For example, when we go to tailor, we give our measurements, and we want our garment should be fit. So that means it is when he is giving us, my expectation is it is conforming to my requirement. The same thing is little more formalized for products. There are standards written by BIS. They give the requirements and it should follow those requirements. Now whether they are conforming or not, it will be done by testing, inspection, calibration, etc. And this conformity, so these calibration labs, testing labs or inspection bodies can be called as conformity assessment bodies. So conformity requirement is the conformity assessment is actually, conformity assessment is demonstration that what is being supplied actually meets the requirement of a specified claim. If it is a testing laboratory, so their result and their capability, CMC. If it is a quality management standard, whether they are following that. But if it is a service, then service, whether it is following the laid out service, even training, etc. There are laid out norms. For competence of personnel also, there will be laid out norms. So whether it is following the laid out norms, what they are claiming, that is called as conformity assessment. Okay. So as I said, there are two MRAs that are important, ILEC and IAF for the accreditation bodies. For measurement, it will be BIPM MRA. Okay, so ILEC and similarly for legal metrology, it will be OIML they have to link to. So ILEC and IF now we are talking because we are talking of 17011. So now to distinguish who will be taking care of what. So ILEC is basically for ILEC is the lower one. The ILEC is laboratory and inspection. So laboratory means calibration, testing laboratories and allied services like reference material producer or 150189 for clinical laboratories or proficiency testing activities. All this will fall under the regime of ILEC MRA. Whereas IF is for IF, that is International Accreditation Forum MRA, will be for systems, management systems, products, processes, services, personnel, validation, verification, etc. So there are two international MRA in terms of accreditation bodies, and both require that these accreditation bodies should be following 17011. Okay, so as I said, NABL is going to ILEC through APEC MRA. What is APEC MRA? Again, it is a mutual recognition arrangement within the Asia Pacific region for laboratories, inspection bodies, and certification bodies, etc. So now, why anybody would go for accreditation? This I don't think I need to go into detail more because already Dr. Kotnala and Dr. Mathur, Mr. Mathur has already highlighted this, that accreditation is very much necessary because government and regulators can rely on it. Business can enhance their confidence. This is for highlighting the how businesses can benefit from getting accredited because they are, for example, they can demonstrate that they are meeting the requirements, they are impartial, and people will have more confidence in their products, etc. But besides these two, also for employees, for example, when you follow certain norms, you are also following safety standards, you are following written standards for procedures, etc. This makes the life of employees simple and also safe. Okay, so and for citizen, again, they are the end user of it, so they can have confidence that goods and services that they are using have been taken care of this thing. So with this introduction, we may embark upon actually going to the requirements of ISO IEC 17011. So what is ISO IEC 17011 and why we have IS here? Because ISO IEC, that is International Standard Organization, and International Electrotechnical Commission have jointly written this standard, that is 17011, and which has been revised latest as in 2017. We put IS in the beginning because Bureau of Indian Standard has adopted this standard and they are allowed to use IS before this. So this is Indian standard. IS stands for this. When we adopt as any standards in toto, we can name it as IS / whatever was the name, international name of the standard. So I'm calling it IS ISO IEC 17011 2017 because we are in India, and you can download it from Bureau of Indian Standards website, that is standards.bsb. If you will search, you will find. Okay, so what it is? It is actually conformity assessment requirement for accreditation bodies. So now with the introduction we have got by my predecessors and by myself, now you understand what are these words, conformity assessment, and what are accreditation bodies. So this sets up requirements for accreditation bodies who are accrediting conformity assessment bodies. So this is the first revision after 2005, and now this is the 2017. And I'm Reena Sharma, Chief Scientist, National Physical Laboratory, as already introduced. I'm speaking on this. So why this standard is important? This is important because we are having ISO IEC 17011 requirement from various international mutual recognition arrangements that it should be followed by accreditation bodies who are taking care of accreditation with respect to, say, for example, 17025, which is for testing and calibration lab, 17020, which is for inspection bodies, okay, 14065, this is relating to environment, that is greenhouse gas verifiers, okay, and personal certification like NABET is doing here, 17024, and 14065 for ISO IC 14065 for product certification. Okay, so whether it is product certification, personal certification, QMS, that is quality system management standard certifiers, test lab accreditation, calibration lab accreditation, inspection bodies accreditation, greenhouse verifiers accreditation, all these accreditations, the accreditation body, if they are willing to go for international MRAs, they have to follow 17011. So this becomes a very important standard, and following this, these bodies who are conformity assessment bodies can demonstrate and accreditation bodies demonstrate confidence to the end users, and end users can benefit from this. Okay. So this document specifies the requirement of activities covered by accreditation. What I show in purple here is actually what I showed in slide by the standards. Now I'm mentioning it. It is as written in the standard: testing, calibration, inspection, certification of management systems, persons, products, processes and services, provision of proficiency testing, production of reference materials, validation and verification. So all these accreditation bodies who are accrediting these have to follow 17011. Okay, so and why they should follow it? Because it is important interested parties have confidence that they are competent to do the accreditation, and peer evaluation is taking place for them by the MREs. So such attestation or these conformity body assessment bodies are accredited by accreditation bodies that are impartial and independent. And the standard also says that usually these are non-profit making bodies. Okay, so this is the word that they are non-profit making bodies, and they ensure conformity assessment bodies conform relevant international standards and normative documents. Okay, so now standard says these words: shall, should, may, can. So we are Indians, we have our own language, we have different words. So, but when we go to class, we have in the beginning itself, we are very much used to say, may I come in, ma'am? Okay, so may is what? We are seeking permission. May I come in? We are seeking permission. If ma'am says yes, we can go. And when I was in class, I think our primary classes, some students used to say, can I come in? And our English madam, especially because she wanted to teach us the difference between can and may, she used to say, you can, but you may not. That means can is your capability. You can always walk in, but may is your permission. So when she is saying you can, you are capable of coming in, but you may not means you are not permitted. So can indicates a possibility or capability, but may indicates a permission that you can do this. Should indicates a recommendation. चाहिए. Like we always heard moral lessons from our parents and teacher, बड़ों का आदर करना चाहिए. It's a recommendation. ठीक है. So in standard also when it says should do this way, that is a recommendation. Shall indicates a requirement. Shall is mandatory. That means it is an instruction by the standard that you have to do it this way or this thing you have to do. So shall is mandatory. Mandatory मतलब compulsory मतलब आवश्यक है. Should means a recommendation, करना चाहिए. May is a permission, आप कर सकते हैं. Can is a capability, आप ऐसा करने के capable हैं. पर may तब होगा आपको किसी से permission लेनी पड़ेगी. So can, may, should, shall, we need to differentiate, because in our north, I belong to Muzaffarnagar. In north, this was very much other way around. We used to think should is a requirement, should is mandatory, and we used to think shall is a my willingness. But as per standard, shall is a requirement. Shall means mandatory, आवश्यक है. Should is a recommendation, ऐसा करना चाहिए. So shall, should, may, can, we all understand these words. So when we are understanding clauses, we have to take care of these words being used, and then accordingly we shall plan. Okay. So about the scope of this standard, as I've already said, this document specifies requirement of competence, consistent operation or and impartiality of accreditation bodies assessing and granting assessing the conformity assessment bodies. Now I think I don't need to repeat conformity assessment bodies again and again. I will be calling it as a CAB, C-A-B, CAB. Okay, and CAB can be inspection body, it can be a calibration testing laboratory, it can be a clinical laboratory, and so on, as we have discussed earlier. Okay. So it gives them normative references in section 2. These will be basically various ISO references, various international references. So in section 2, it is following the references. So from section 3 onwards, because we are using various words, so it has given a harmonized definition also. Because definition in various books, etc. may vary. So we follow internationally two things. For metrology, we follow vocabulary of international terms in metrology, and there is also definitions that are given by ISO that we are following in this document, that is from the series of 17,000 standards. So we will be going definition one by one. So what is accreditation? So here is a word used first, third party attestation related to a conformity assessment body. Okay, so now let us understand what is third party attestation. See, when we are going to school, if school is assessing us, for example, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, it is assessing us. It is first party is we, myself, and school is assessing us, that becomes second party because we are their students and we are following them. But if it is CBSE board, that becomes a third party attestation of the teaching and all. Similarly, if a customer is going for calibration testing, so the lab and the customer are first party and second party. First party is the lab offering the surface, and second party becomes the customer. So if there was no third party attestation or accreditation, each customer will like to see what are the norms you are following, what are you doing, and then only you can give order to that. So instead of that, there is a third party, which is accreditation body, which grants accreditation to them. That means it is not involved in the conformity assessment services. It is accrediting conformity assessment services. So this becomes the third party attestation. University degree again is a third party attestation. Okay, so this is third party attestation, we can understand. So third party attestation related to conformity assessment convey formal demonstration of its competence to carry out specific conformity assessment task. So even if, for example, CAB may be doing calibration testing, so it has to follow 17025 standards. If it is doing inspection, it has to follow other standard. So whether they are following the international norms or not, that will be checked by accreditation body. So it is a third party attestation to confirm that the competence CAB has the competence to do the conformity assessment task. So what is an accreditation body? Naturally, those authoritative bodies that perform accreditation. Okay. The authority of accreditation body is generally derived from the government, because to operate in a country, the authority is granted by the government. Even if it is a private body, it will register in some way, whether registered society or company act or different way. So it will have certain legal identity. So authority is given by the government. So authoritative body that performs accreditation. So accreditation body will have certain logo, then it is called a logo. NPL has its own logo. Government of Consumer Affairs will have their own logo. NABL has its own logo. So different way. So accreditation body like NABL or NABCB, they will have their own logo. So this is to identify them. Now again, the CAB, the formally how it defines, it says conformity assessment body is a body that performs conformity assessment activities. And what can be the conformity assessment activities? It can be, as we said earlier, it can be various kinds of activities, right from inspection to other things. Okay, so whenever conformity assessment body is used in text, it applies to both whether it is applicant or it is to whom the accreditation has been granted. Both are conformity assessment bodies, unless the standard says otherwise. So what are the conformity assessment activities that these bodies follow, CABs follow? It can be following: testing, calibration, inspection, certification of management system like ISO 9001 certification. Okay, persons like NABET is granting 17024, product, processes and services, provision of proficiency testing, production of reference material, validation and verification. So various activities, these activities are conformity assessment activities, and the bodies that do that are called conformity assessment bodies. So for simplicity, because a standard is meant for all these bodies, if it would have said lab / inspection body / certification body, this, it would have been a very complicated to mention all in a each clause. So for simplicity, these are referred to as CAB, that is conformity assessment body, that is performing any conformity assessment activity being performed by these bodies. Okay, so CAB and conformity assessment activities now we should understand. So what is the scope of accreditation? Now, when we are doing certain work, what is my scope? What is the range of activities? What are further my accuracy, etc. will be mentioned. And also there is a guidance document by ILEC or IAF, how the scope has to be written. Flexible scope, as the name suggests, where conformity assessment body is allowed to make changes and methodology and other parameters. So flexible scope is a further thing than scope. Now we come to accreditation scheme. This word will be used. So various accreditation that are granted for various standards are known as accreditation scheme. So that means scheme is rules and processes relating to the accreditation of conformity assessment bodies to which the same requirement may apply. So you can understand it further. For example, what are the schemes of NABL accreditation? In schemes of NABL, it grants accreditation to laboratories as per ISO IC 17025. Clinical laboratories also 17025. Calibration laboratories 17025. Medical, I'm sorry, I said clinical laboratory 17025. So medical and clinical testing laboratories are ISO 15189. Similarly, 17043 for PTP, and for RMP it will be 17034. Similarly, there will be for NABCB, for management systems, inspection, personal certification, product certification. These are accreditation schemes of NABCB. So I'm just explaining this definition further by showing you this. And similarly, NABET will have a scheme for schools, for environment impact assessment, and various things. NABH will have again various schemes. So whatever accreditation body, it declares what schemes we are operating. Okay. So accreditation activity, individual, operation, operational task of accreditation process. It will be more clear when Shelley will be taking clause 7. Their various accreditation activities will be being discussed. Okay. So now we come to impartiality. Impartiality, from very childhood we say this. We have this sibling jealousy. Mama दूसरे भाई को ज्यादा प्यार करती है. Mama loves or parents love the other kid more. Or you love my friend more. Teacher loves this student more. So we always keep on saying that they are partial. So what is the definition of impartiality? What is, how we can say that they are impartial? That means there is certain presence of objectivity. That is how standard defines it. But objectivity, there can be other words. That is, there is no conflict of interest. There is freedom for bias. That is, a person is unbiased. There is lack of prejudice. There is neutrality, fairness, open-mindedness, even-handedness, detachment also some people say, because you are not attached to certain client. That balance. So, but these words were suggested during the writing of a standard by various countries, but ultimately standard has said presence of objectivity, and whatever other words were suggested, they have kept in note 2 to the entry. Okay, so objectivity means broadly that there is no conflict of interest. I am not biased or favoring a client with respect to other clients, or are resolved so as not to adversely influence subsequent activities. That means your decision is based on objective evidences and not any other conflict of interest. So presence of objectivity is impartiality. Accreditation process is actually various activities from application of the client to granting of accreditation. Whatever activities accreditation body is following during this, that will be accreditation process. And these will be dealt by Shelley today afternoon when she is dealing with the client clause 7. Accreditation symbol. Now, as I said, there is a logo of the body, but as such, the clients are not allowed to use the logo as such. For example, what NABL says, you use our logo, but as a symbol, they have given different symbol with CC for calibration lab, T for testing lab. So their certificate number comes and logo comes, and that is called symbol. So symbol issued by accreditation body to be used by the accredited conformity assessment bodies, that is their clients, to indicate that they have been accredited. So this is a confidence mark in a way you can say, and this an accreditation body allows them to use. Okay. So accreditation decision of granting accreditation, maintaining accreditation, extending accreditation, reducing scope of accreditation, suspending, and other things, withdrawing, etc. will come. So granting accreditation is simple. I will skip. Maintaining, we have done. Extending, reducing, suspending, withdrawing accreditation. Okay, so these are various words which are decisions. Complaint now. What is complaint and what is feedback? We always say it is nice or not nice. That is feedback. But complaint is expression of dissatisfaction. I am expressing my dissatisfaction other than appeal by any organization to the accreditation body. But here there is a additional rider. See my cursor, this last sentence, where a response is expected. That means if somebody has expressed dissatisfaction and a response is expected, then it is called a complaint. But since we are talking of 17011, this complaint is with respect to activities of the accreditation body or an accredited conformity assessment body. So we are concerned with these two kinds of complaints only in this system. So appeal is about decision. When you are saying that please reconsider the decision, you are appealing. Okay, so if accreditation body takes any adverse accreditation decision, that then like withdrawing or accreditation or suspending accreditation, then you are appealing that please reconsider, give your evidences. So that is called appeal. Assessment, very clear. How then AB is determining competence of the CAB. That is process of assessment. And after a cycle, For example, 2-year cycle followed by NABL. When it again goes, it will be called reassessment. Assessment is a combination of technique. It is on-site assessment. It can be remote assessment, which happened a large number of this thing in COVID, online, etc., witnessing test, etc., document review, file review, measurement audits, different kind of assessment techniques are followed. Validation audit, interviewing the personnel. So these are the techniques. So this is just further explaining various techniques. Assessment plan is what is to be done in this assessment. When AB gives this plan, that is there. And an assessor is sent by the accreditation body to perform the assessment part. And assessor is trained as per norms, international norms. Among these assessors, one will be the team leader, which has overall responsibility. Technical experts operate, they know their subject area, but they operate under the authority of a trained assessor. These are called technical expert. Interested parties, like Vineet Mathurji was talking of stakeholders. So these are directly or indirectly who have direct or indirect interest. Direct interest is those who are getting accreditation. Indirect, their clients. That can be indirect. So consultancy, participation of any form of activity of conformity assessment subject to accreditation. For example, you are advising a cab, then you are providing a consultancy. So then with this, I will end class 3 and I will go to class 4. But how do we go about, Ashutosh? Do we discuss any questions on class 3 first and then go for class 4?
Ma'am, actually, we do not have any question in the chat box related to class 3.
Okay.
So I think we can continue.
Or what do we do if we?
Just a minute, ma'am. I just check once again if there is any question related to clause 3 or 2 or 1. I'm just checking in the chat box.
Yes, somebody has said NABL or QCI are both not government. I already said they are autonomous bodies. They are registered under the Society Act. The Act clearly indicates that have to all India operation. When I say they have permission from government, because they have registered under the Act of Societies. So that is the thing. Then there is, how do AB give evidence that they are non-profit organizations? They see the standards wording. It has said usually. It has not said that this will be or shall be. Number 1. Number 2, when we go as APEC evaluator to the bodies that we are doing, we see their activities, their finances. So there will be obviously certain financial reserve, we call it. See, surplus of income over expenditure is called financial reserve. So under APEC MRA or ILAC MRA, it is also to be seen that these bodies have sufficient reserve in terms of space, in terms of disaster management, in terms of financial reserve. So it is not that they are making for profit and spending it somewhere else. They will keep it as a financial reserve for any kind of situation so that they can keep on running. Actually, it is desirable that a body has some financial reserve. Any other questions are there?
No, ma'am, I don't think so. There is no other question. But very well. So, ma'am, now there are two things. One is we can continue with clause 4.
Okay. So we'll continue with clause 4. So see, standard has 9 clauses. So it is from general requirement, structural requirement. Okay. And I am not giving 9 clauses in one go, showed you, because then you will be sort of lost. Oh, my God, so many things. So in a standard, as I said, 1 to 3 you have already seen up to definition. Then we go to general requirements. Then we will follow resource requirement. And then there will be 7, that is process requirement. And then information requirement is 8. and management system requirement is 9. And you can also remember that 9 is also aligned with 9001. So 9 and 9001 may be simpler to address. So process requirement, how accreditation process will go on, that is 7. And 8 is information requirement. So we will go one by one. So right now I am on the general requirements, what they call. So in general requirement 4, class 4 has 6 parts. So one is legal entity, legal identity or legal entity 4.1. Second is 4.2 accreditation agreement. Then 4.3 use of accreditation symbol and other claims of accreditation. 4.4 impartiality requirements. 4.5 financing and liabilities. And 4.6 establishing accreditation schemes. Okay. So as we are talking now, whether QCI is registered in what way or all, this will be legal entity. I will be going one, but here I am saying broadly what is there. Accreditation agreement, as we know, any agreement. We know rent agreement is between landlord and the tenant. Similarly, accreditation agreement is accreditation body and conformity assessment body. They go into agreement. It is about that. Then use of accreditation symbol. We also learned the definition and how it allows to the use of accreditation symbol and other claims of accreditation will be 4.3. And 4.4, as we learned the impartiality definition, the bodies are supposed to be impartial. So accreditation bodies, so it states those requirements. 4.5 will be financing and liability, and 4.6 will be accreditation schemes. We learned the definition of accreditation scheme. We learned the accreditation schemes given by various boards of QCI in India. So those will be accreditation schemes. So in general requirement, the 4.1 is legal entity. Okay. So why we call legal? What is the legal part? For example, if there is any dispute, there can be, we can sue that person, organization legally. So how that organization is identified in our legal system. So this is legal entity. The accreditation body shall be a legal entity or a defined part of legal entity such that it is legally responsible for its accreditation activities. Now, what can be ways of legal entity? This depends from country to country, their regulation. For example, with us, we believe societies, trusts, companies, these can be legal entity, and there are many more. Okay, so accreditation body shall be a legal entity. That means it will say what it is legal identity. When we go for their peer evaluation, they will be able to show us proof of that, like any registration certificate and details of that. Or a defined part of legal entity. For example, now QCI is registered as a legal entity. And then these boards, different boards, NABAT, NABL, NABCB are defined part of QCI. So it will be a legal entity or a defined part of a legal entity such that it is legally responsible for all its accreditation activities. Legally, it holds the responsibility of what kind of accreditation it has been granted. Now here, it gives a note. It says government, for example, registration, we can see registration certificate. So now about government accreditation bodies, how do we treat them as a legal entity? That is on the basis of their status within the government. Okay. Or accreditation body that is part of a larger body can operate under different name. So parent organization name can be different, and this legal entity, it is part of that larger body, but it can use a different name, but it will show the relationship with the parent body. I hope legal entity is clear. Somebody has just now asked How can we get these ISO books? These are not ISO books, these are ISO standards. You can get from ISO website, but this standard, as I said, has already been adopted by BIS, and you can get it through BIS as a ISO standard. Okay, so accreditation agreement. Accreditation body shall establish a legally enforceable arrangement, okay, with each conformity assessment body. So now what is this legally enforceable arrangement? For example, NEBL asks you to sign certain documents. They can call it 131, 133. Okay, so this is a legally enforcement agreement. Or I am a AB, I can say this is my terms and condition. You sign that and it comes to me, and then I say, okay, by taking accreditation, you have promised to follow these norms. So that is our legally enforceable agreement. Now, what it should have in their legally enforceable agreement, there are various recommendations from the government that they will have about their operation and all. But as a minimum, it shall have following. For example, this which is specified by the standard. To commit to fulfill the requirements or accreditation for a scope for which accreditation is sought or granted, to commit to provide evidence of fulfillment. That means they will be fulfilling the requirement of accreditation, including the adhering to this standard and other requirements of AB and regulators, etc. They will be fulfilling the requirements for that scope, whatever they are claiming they are accredited for, and they will provide evidence, because our assessors will go or peer evaluators will go and check the evidence that they are following the requirement. This includes agreement to adopt to changes in the requirement of accreditation. Okay, so whatever changes come to system, like for example, earlier it was 17011 2004, now it is 17011 2017. So accreditation body will say that we are following this, and they will ask their lab to fulfill changed standard, that is 17025, whatever 2017 has come, or whatever changes can come to requirements. So they will be following the latest requirements. To cooperate as necessary to enable accreditation body to fulfillment of the requirement. That means whatever are the requirement to show that you are fulfilling, if the accreditation body is sending some representative, they will cooperate to provide those evidences. To provide access to the conformity assessment body personnel, location, equipment, information, documents, records as necessary to verify fulfillment of the requirement of accreditation. So basically what it is saying, whenever an accreditation body or needs to get access to all these documents, equipment, their premises, they will be providing. So agreement says this, that you will give us this, and to arrange witnesses of a conformity assessment activity. Like for example, during on-site assessment, a accreditation body sends the assessor, and the assessor witnesses the activity that is being performed by them, okay, when requested by the accreditation body. To have, where applicable, legally enforceable arrangement with their clients, to commit the client to provide. मैं लैंग्वेज में बाद में जाऊंगी, आप थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हो जाएंगे. What I want to say is, I am an assessor coming from a accreditation body. I have come to, अभी मैं एग्जांपल लेती हूँ, आशुतोष अग्रवाल जी हमारे साथ कहीं असेसमेंट करने गए, वो एक कैब का असेसमेंट कर रहे हैं, इज असेसिंग ए कैब दैट इज ए लेबोरेटरी एज एन असेसर ऑफ NABL. Okay, now this cab performs on-site calibration for their client. So as part of assessment activity, this assessor, which is Shri Ashutosh Agarwal ji, needs to go to their client. That means if their client will refuse, if this conformity assessment body or the lab does not have an agreement with them. So what they are saying here is that they will also, like accreditation body is doing agreement with the conformity assessment body, that is lab, that we will come and you will be giving us access and witnessing this. Similarly, this lab or cab will have agreement with their client that, okay, if the need be, you will provide on request access to accreditation body assessment teams to assess the conformity assessment. So NABL sent Shri Ashutosh ji. Shri Ashutosh ji asked the CAB, which was the lab, to show the on-site assessment, and that is how he can visit the client of this CAB. So this is the third part, that is E part on this last part on this slide, that they will also have a agreement. So F is to claim accreditation only with respect to scope. So you will never say I am accredited by the accreditation body as a CAB. The CAB can say I am accredited by the accreditation body for my scope, this scope. So then they can display the scope, because scope is covering the activities that has been accredited by the accreditation body. And it also commits to follow the accreditation body's policy for use of accreditation symbol. Okay, so we said claim of accreditation is related to accreditation symbol also. So these two will be part of agreement that they will be following. Then not to use its accreditation in such manner to bring the accreditation body in disrepute. It is a small thing, but it is a big thing. When we say कि accreditation body has granted you accreditation, so if your activities are such that it brings the accreditation body in disrepute, ये ऐसा ही है कि जैसे माता पिता कहते हैं कि भाई आप गलत काम करोगे तो हमारे खानदान का नाम खराब होगा, है ना. तो ये ऐसे ही है कि भाई अगर आप you are not doing any activity because such that it will bring accreditation body of disrepute कि भाई ये फला accreditation body से accredited एक organization था and it is doing such kind of malpractice, so it brings the bad name to both. So that is why they are saying do not do any such activity to bring disrepute to the accreditation body. To inform the accreditation body without delay. If you are that means they are saying accreditation body will say you are committed that you will inform to us any delay, without any delay, any significant change, whether you are changing your say signatory or ownership of organizational structure or any legal entity changes or any resource or location is changing, your scope of accreditation is changing. So whatever is happening, you will bring to the notice of accreditation body. So that client cannot say later on, this CAB cannot say that I did not know this requirement. That is why you have a legally enforceable agreement with them stating all these requirements. Naturally, accreditation body will commit them, ask them commitment to pay the fee as determined by the accreditation body, to assist in investigation and resolution of any accreditation related complaints. Okay, so if they get accreditation bodies and getting any complaint about the CAB, they will assist and they will cooperate in investigation and resolution of this complaint. Okay, so that is 4.2. 4.2 was about legally enforceable agreement. 4.1 was about legal entity. So now in agreement we learned that there will be money. We earlier learned that these CABs are allowed to use accreditation symbols. So now how they will be using, there is a requirement in standard about use of accreditation symbol and other claims of accreditation. Okay, so 4.3.1, I am here now, you can see. Okay, accreditation body shall take measures to ensure that the accredited conformity assessment body CAB, that means the accredited CAB will be fulfilling this A, B, C, D we will be talking about. So A is fully conforms, it fully conforms to requirement of accreditation body for claiming accreditation status. So whatever requirement have been set by agreement, we have to follow that. and also in their policy document. Two places they will be giving requirements, one in their policy documents. So standard says that fully conforms to the accreditation body for claiming accreditation status when making reference to its accreditation in communication media. Communication media can be brochures, books, marketing material, website. So wherever they are using, claiming, they will conform to the requirements of the accreditation body. Okay. Does not make any misleading or unauthorized statement regarding its accreditation. Okay. So misleading, that means it should be claiming only for the scope of accreditation. There should be no misleading or unauthorized statement about this. Then upon withdrawal of its accreditation, discontinues its use of any reference to the accreditation. That means if due to any reason the accreditation has been withdrawn, all your publicity materials, all your website, all your communication, all your forms, wherever you were claiming accreditation needs to be changed, and this accreditation claim has to be removed from there. So does not refer to accreditation in such a way to imply that a product, process, service, management system or person is approved by the accreditation body. Who is approved by the accreditation body? The conformity assessment body, not the product. Okay, so conformity assessment body is approved. So like a calibration lab is approved, a testing lab is approved by accreditation body, but not the product it is testing. Okay, so you have to refer to accreditation in such a way not to imply, okay, that a product, process or management system has been accredited. Informs its affected client of the suspension, reduction or withdrawal. If suspension, reduction or withdrawal takes place, these are called adverse actions. Suspension, we are very much familiar with. We hear that so and so official has been suspended. That means whatever post he was holding for the time being, it has not been withdrawn, but for some time it has been suspended. So till the investigation is going on. Similarly, here accreditation body suspends a cab for a period. This is an adverse decision. It can be arising due to any reasons that we will be seeing in further clauses. So this is an adverse decision, or it reduces its scope. Various test calibration that it was doing, it can say no, you are not authorized for this one anymore. Rest of it you can do. That is reducing the scope. Withdrawal is finally if grant of accreditation is withdrawn. So these three adverse decisions may take place, but if it has taken place, God forbid it should not take place, but if it has taken place, the standard says that this CAB will inform its client, affected client, about these accreditation decisions, adverse decisions, and the associated consequences without any undue delay. When an accreditation body has an accreditation symbol, this is 432. Okay, so we have accreditation body like NABCB or NABL has given a, or new other bodies will be coming up in India that they have an accreditation symbol. They will have the legal right to use it, and accreditation symbol shall be legally protected. How do we protect legally this symbol in our country? By way of copyright, etc. Okay, you file a copyright, so no other body can come up tomorrow and use the same same symbol. Okay, so this is about the accreditation body, that it will protect its accreditation symbol by legally. Okay. Accreditation body shall have 433 documented policy. So that is why you see accreditation bodies have various policy documents. For example, policy for traceability. Okay, so these are policy document. Okay, so accreditation body shall have a documented policy governing the use of accreditation symbol. So policy for accreditation symbol shall be documented. A policy document will be made and the claims of accreditation stated. And this policy documents, when they are drafting, they will as a minimum write following things. Number one, requirement, that is A, requirement for use and monitoring of the accreditation symbol in combination with an conformity assessment body mark. That means conformity assessment body, say some lab, we can say for example ETDC, okay, calibration lab, they have their own mark, conformity assessment body mark. Along with that, if they are accredited by NABL or any other AB, they can use this symbol that is given right by the AB. So requirement for use of and monitoring of accreditation symbol. Okay, whatever requirements are there will be stated in their documented policy document. Okay, that the accreditation symbol is not affixed on its own or used to imply that a product, process or service. So this we learned in the earlier class also. Again, this will be stated in the policy document of the accreditation body that they will not use the symbol to imply product, process or services or part of it has been certified or approved by the accreditation body. Requirements for reproduction of accreditation body symbol, accreditation symbol. Whatever requirement, this will be the color, this will be the size, it should not be distorted, or whatever requirements in detail, it will be given its in accreditation body will give in its policy document for use of symbol. Requirement for any reference to accreditation. Any reference, when we say I'm accredited, what I should say, in what manner I should say, what are the requirements of accreditation body, that will be given. Requirements for use of accreditation symbol and claims of accreditation status in communication media. So same thing we said in general, but now we are saying about your publication material, your communication media, how you will be using all this. The policy document of AB will be telling the CAB. Again, policy document of AB will also tell that the conformity assessment body only uses the accreditation symbol and claims of accreditation status for the specific activities covered by the scope of accreditation. Again and again, it is saying that scope of accreditation is the only thing for which you are granted accreditation. So use your symbol for that only. So policy document of accreditation body should say that. This is the requirement of ISO 17011-2017. That accreditation body will have a policy document about use of symbol and it will be following A to F of 4.3.3. Okay. Accreditation symbol shall have 4.34. Again, about accreditation symbol shall have or be accompanied with a clear indication as to which conformity assessment activity has been related to the accreditation. Okay. So, if I suppose I am a CAB which is doing calibration, testing, inspection, everything, but I take accreditation only for calibration. So my symbol will be accompanied with clear indication of which it is doing. Or within calibration also, if my scope states certain things, it will be for those only. So it is saying clearly that you should be using accreditation symbol shall have or be accompanied with a clear indication to which conformity assessment activity. And that is why different symbols for calibration, testing, etc. are given by the accreditation body. Okay, accreditation body shall take suitable action to deal with incorrect, unauthorized claims of accreditation status, misleading. That means broadly what it is saying, accreditation body will tell how it will deal with if a laboratory or a CAB misuses the symbol. So there is a laid out documents and it says that we will be taking these actions. For example, I said suitable action can be, if it is an accredited lab, adverse action. But if it is not an accredited CAB and it has used, then you have no choice but to take a legal action as provided by the law of that country. So accreditation body will say what actions it will take or how it will be dealing for misuse of symbol. Impartiality requirements. that they will be impartial. Okay. So in impartiality, as we said, 4.4 states about impartiality. So what we say, what is impartiality? In definition, we learned it is presence of objectivity or absence of conflict of interest or absence of prejudice. So that means all our clients who are CABs will be treated equally. Accreditation shall be undertaken impartially. Accreditation body 442 next subclause says accreditation body shall be responsible for the impartiality of its accreditation activities and shall not allow commercial, financial or other pressures to compromise impartiality. Okay, so due to any pressure, impartiality should not be compromised. It will take certain measures. Where an accreditation body, including government accreditation body, is part of a larger entity, the accreditation body shall be organized in such a way that the accreditation is provided impartially. Okay, it may be part of a larger government body or a part of a larger entity, but all the sections of or this larger entity, all parts will be independent so as not to influence the accreditation decisions by this accreditation body. 443, the accreditation body shall have management commitment to impartiality. So this commitment to impartiality will come from the top. Of course, till down the line it has to be followed, but the top management commitment will be made by the accreditation body management that we are committed to impartiality. It shall document and make public an impartiality policy. So what is my impartiality policy? It will be publicly available, which includes the importance of impartiality in carrying out accreditation activities. So that means I am making it available to public. I am informing my impartiality policy to all my elements. Those are acting on my behalf or are my employees. When I say my, I mean accreditation body. So this accreditation body will take care that all its activities that are being done are done in impartially manner. And in 443, it is saying that top management will commit for it. It will document and it will make this policy, impartiality policy, available to the public. Okay. So it will also say in this policy how it manages conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, and it ensures objectivity of its accreditation activity. When we say absence of conflict of interest and objectivity, it is definition of impartiality. So how it manages impartiality, it will be telling in detail by showing, dealing with these two elements of the impartiality. 4.4.4, accreditation body personnel and committees who influence accreditation process. Who are the committees? Assessors are the personnel. Accreditation body employees are the personnel. Committees, maybe I form a committee sourcing members from various stakeholders. That committee, so be it my personnel, be it committee, who are influencing the accreditation process. Everybody will act objectively. That means they will be impartial and shall be free from any undue commercial, financial, and any other process. It will require all personnel and committee members to disclose potential conflict of interest. What could be potential conflict of interest? Suppose a person is in the committee and he has granted consultancy to certain organization earlier. So it is his duty that he discloses this potential conflict of interest. Or it is my relative's thing, then that will be thing. So it discloses, it requires, shall require, it's mandatory that it will require everybody to disclose any potential conflict of interest. The accreditation body shall document and implement a process to provide opportunity for the effective involvement by interested parties for safeguarding impartiality. What is it saying? I told you the interested parties. Who are interested parties? Direct and indirectly affected by the accreditation. So all these interested parties will have opportunity to provide input when accreditation body is making any implementation process. The accreditation body shall ensure balanced representation of interested parties with no single party predominating. Okay, it should not be that all committee members are from one organization. It will take care that there are representation from CAP, from associations, from consumer associations, then other stakeholders like NMI and different various parts of our quality infrastructure. So whatever can be my interested parties, it will ensure a balanced representation of interested parties. Accreditation body shall have 446 is saying shall have process to identify, analyze, evaluate, treat, monitor ongoing basis. क्या करना है, क्या identify करना है? What is to be identified? Risk. We said we will be impartial, but we have to on ongoing manner analyze, is there any risk to impartiality? Okay, impartiality के लिए risk कहाँ से arise हो सकता है? Either from its relationship with the parent organization or other organization, accreditation body's relationship, or its personal relationship, or its committee members' relationship, etc. So whatever activities we are doing, ongoing basis, we will see, is there any risk to partiality? So, okay, we identified the risk. Now what we will do? We will analyze how much is the risk. We will evaluate that what can be affected with this risk. Then how we treat the risk, how we minimize the risk. And after minimizing, we are also monitoring whether the risk has been minimized. So this has to be, all this also needs to be documented. So now if we read again, it will analyze, this is talking about risk first of all. Okay, risk to impartiality. So we are talking about risk to impartiality. We are identifying, that is accreditation body shall identify, analyze, evaluate, treat, monitor and document on ongoing basis risk to impartiality. There can be various ways. You can do impartiality committees as an accreditation body who will be looking into that, and maybe 3 monthly they will be reviewing, or whenever any changes are taking place in the personal or relationship, they will be reviewing. So this is how they will be doing on ongoing basis. This process shall include identification of and consultation with appropriate interested parties, as we have described earlier, and the matters affecting impartiality. Okay, sources to risk to impartiality we have already discussed. Okay, any risk to impartiality if it is identified, when देखो हम सड़क भी पार करने जाते हैं तो हम एक risk देखते हैं. What we do when we are crossing the road, we see left, we see right. If any vehicle is coming, if we see any vehicle is coming, to minimize the risk, what we do? We stop. Okay, if a vehicle is coming slowly, we try to walk fast and cross fast. So similarly, when any risk is been identified, it will document and demonstrate how it eliminates or minimized such risk. So this will be, they will take it. They will also take care similarly for the potential risk. Top management shall review the residual risk. Whatever action you have taken, even then if there is some residual risk, remaining risk, so whether it is within the acceptable range or not, that will be reviewed by the top management. So it can review it in management review meeting. That will be dealt by Shelley later on. So 448 will be that. 449, when an unacceptable risk has been identified, which cannot be mitigated to an acceptable level, then accreditation shall not be provided. Okay, we will say we are not going to provide accreditation because we could not minimize risk to impartiality. For example, in that area we had only one expert, okay, who is related to this thing, body, who is seeking accreditation, and we feel that it will be compromising the thing. We can say we are not giving, or we can say another way could be that we will be putting one more person there to see that he is impartial. So this can be the ways. Accreditation bodies, policies, process, procedures will be non-discriminatory. That means they are not in favor of one with respect to other, and shall be applied in a non-discriminatory way. Accreditation body shall make services accessible to all applicants whose application for accreditation fall within the scope of accreditation. So accreditation body makes publicly available that these are my scopes of accreditation schemes, and if it is falling within that, then it will be accessible to all applicants. As such shall not be conditional or on the size of applicant. We cannot say that we are giving only to the larger organization. It can be very small entity also, then also it will be given. Considered actually. Giving or not giving will be at the end of it. Okay. Members of any association, group, nor shall accreditation will be conditional upon the conformity assessment body already accredited. If it is already accredited by other accreditation body, you cannot say we will not do this. Okay. So that is there. 4411, the accreditation body and any part of the same legal entity.
Can I interrupt, ma'am?
Yeah, I know it is time.
Yeah, well, I would like to request you if you kindly continue after the lunch and after 1 hour.
No, what will I do? I will quickly within 2-3 minutes, I have 1 minute, finish this class and stop there. Then rest of it I will take tomorrow. Because today I will not impinge upon Shelley's time. Okay. So I am noting the time, don't worry. I have kept
no, please. Please. Even I request you, you can continue after 2 o'clock, no problem.
No, but then we will be impinging upon Shelley's thing. We will do it tomorrow. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
Accreditation body shall be any part of the same legal entity will not do. That means accreditation body will not itself provide services that a CAP does. Okay. So conformity assessment activities that are covered by its accreditation. For example, if NABL earlier used to provide PTP proficiency testing, but it cannot provide now because it is now accrediting proficiency testing provided. Okay. And it will also not be giving any consultancy to any CAP. Okay. So this is very simple actually. So this clause is about how it is linked to the accreditation body is linked to body offering consultancy or undertaking the accreditation body shall have different top management. How you show differential? There are walls and there are soft walls. So different top management, different personnel, distinct different name, logo, symbol, effective mechanism will be part of this. So then when we go to 4411, it says AB's activity shall not be presented as linked to with consultancy. We have to be very careful that we don't promote any consultancy as a AB. AB is not linked to any consultancy. Okay. Or other services that pose an unacceptable risk to impartiality. Okay. Nothing shall be shared or implied to suggest that accreditation will be simpler, easier, faster, or less expensive if you use consultancy. So accreditation body will not be saying this. Okay. So there are various notes to this thing. So 4.5 is financial liability. As we already discussed, if any liability occurs due to financial liability that is occurring, that means daily expenses. That means also if due to its personal CAP liability, that is third party liability come, so it will have sufficient financial arrangement to cover its financial liability, and it has description of source of its income that will be seen by the peer evaluator who is coming for seeing this thing. Okay. So that means risk evaluation will be done by the accreditation from its activities 4.52, and arrangement to cover liabilities will be made while they will be establishing 4.6. Now I will stop. Tomorrow I will start from 4.6. So in 4.6 we will have up to 4.6.45. Actually it is just 10 minutes. We can finish now, or we can start tomorrow morning, 4.6, and then we will get to section 5. So this is just 10 minutes, that is 4.6. So Ashutosh, I stop here now.
Very well. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you very much. So tomorrow we will start from 4.6 clause.
Yeah, 4.6.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay. So
thank you very much. Thank you. So now we are meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You will start 11 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, we have a few questions, but I think they are basically how to improve our skills and personality to interview. Just generalized questions, not.
That is a subject of different lecture. Sometimes you can arrange a lecture on auditing techniques. Then we can say it is open question, close question, and all will be there. Basically, you have to get information. So that will be there. Okay. So there is no other this thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for your kind support. Tomorrow morning again, we'll meet at 11 o'clock, and all the participants, we will meet at 2 o'clock. When we will start before 2, we'll meet at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
So I will try to join at 2, but I think Shali will continue. So see you tomorrow morning if I don't join in the afternoon. Okay.
Thank you. We are meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Tomorrow 11?
Yeah, ma'am. 11 o'clock.
Okay.
We will start 11 o'clock. Today, unfortunately, we have some delay, but generally we used to start at 11.
Okay. Yeah, that's why 10 minutes overlap will be there.
Today, unfortunately, it was delayed.
Do that. And tomorrow, same link?
Yes, same link. Link is already there, but tomorrow link is different.
Tomorrow link is different. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. We'll meet at 2 o'clock now, today. At 2 o'clock for the other classes. Thank you.
For the cap, then at any point of time, AB can decide not to proceed for the assessment. 7.6 clause talks about the assessment, documented procedure for describing the assessment techniques we are using, the circumstances in which they are to be used, and rules for determining assessment duration. AB has to decide, accreditation body has to decide the procedures in which they should include the assessment techniques. They should define the assessment duration on the basis of the scope CAB has applied, number of assessors, number of technical experts required, number of man days. All these things are should be a defined procedure with the AB. Accreditation body has to define. Always assessment should start with the opening meeting. This is also to be defined in the accreditation body's procedure. Then assessment always should be conducted on the basis of assessment plan. There should be assessment plan which needs to be communicated to the CAB in advance. Then analysis all the relevant information and objective evidence gathered prior to the during the assessment. Whatever information assessment team has gathered, it should be documented in a proper way with all the evidences along with the assessment report. Then, where assessment team cannot reach a conclusion at any point of time. Suppose during the assessment, there are certain things for which assessment team is not able to take a decision. Then they can, any point of time, they can refer to the accreditation body for additional information. They can ask to the accreditation body for additional information for taking any decision during the assessment. They have to record all the evidences, all the information they have gathered during the assessment. Then the accreditation body shall be responsible for all the content of all its assessment reports. Here, it means that the assessors on behalf of AB who are doing the assessments, is not responsible. Only accreditation body will be responsible for whatever information is there in the assessment reports. That's why certain accreditation bodies are taking confidential terms and conditions and asking declarations from the assessor that they will not disclose any information, whatever they have used or documented during the assessment. Define time frame to address the non-conformities. If during the assessment there are certain non-conformities, then CAB has to given a certain time which is defined by the AB as per their policy and procedure. For during that time only, CAB has to address all the non-conformities and they have to provide all the informations to address the non-conformities to the accreditation body. Then responses of the conformity assessment body to resolve non-conformities are reviewed to determine if the actions are considered to be sufficient and appropriate. It's AB's responsibility to review the corrective actions, and they can decide on the basis of the corrective actions submitted by the lab or the evidences against non-conformity submitted by the CAB, whether that is sufficient or they require any additional information. At any point of time, AB can ask for any additional information from the CAB. Once all the non-conformities are closed and the assessment report is ready with the AB so that they can take a decision on accreditation on the assessment report, there comes the next clause 7.7, accreditation decision making. In this, standard talks about the decision of the process for all types of accreditation decision. Decision for granting, maintaining, extending, reducing, suspending, and withdrawing of accreditation. As Reena Madam was telling in the morning session, that there are certain conditions and there are certain conditions to maintain the accreditation. So AB has to define, AB has to take the decisions for granting, maintaining, extending, reducing, suspending, and withdrawing of accreditation from the competent person they are having. And it should be different from those who has carried out the assessment. The assessors cannot be a part of decision making. There should be independent person who has done the assessment cannot be a part of decision making. While maintaining where maintaining is not related to the reassessment, there is no modification to the scope or withdrawal is requested by the CAB, then the accreditation body can implement a process which does not require an independent decision. Here standard says that suppose during the reassessment or during any point of time during the accreditation period of the CAB, if CAB wants to modify the scope or they are maintaining the same scope on which CAB itself can take a decision. So it's not required that an additional external expert or any independent person needs to be there. AB can take a decision on the same. Then information provided to the accreditation decision maker for review shall include. There are certain shall requirements which needs to be provided to the decision maker who is taking decision on the accreditation of the CAB. This includes unique identification of the CAB assessment body, date and type and assessment, whether it's an initial assessment or reassessment. Decision maker should know name of the assessor who has performed the assessment, if technical experts involved in the assessment also to be declared, unique identification for all the locations assessed. These all should be included in the assessment report which will be presented to the decision makers. Fifth one is the scope of accreditation that was assessed, the assessment report, the entire information, all the evidences which are provided by the assessment team needs to be provided to the decision maker. A statement on adequacy of the organization and procedures adopted by the CAB to give confidence in its competence as determined through its fulfillment of the requirement of accreditation. This should be provided by the assessor in the assessment report. Then sufficient information to demonstrate the satisfactory response to all the non-conformities, all the corrective actions which CAB has submitted against the non-conformities raised during the assessment should be provided to the decision makers. Where relevant, any further information that may assist in determining the competence of the CAB as determined through conformity with requirements. Where appropriate, a recommendation as to the accreditation decision for proposed scope. Assessment team also needs to give their recommendation on the basis of the assessment they have performed during the assessment. These all things needs to be provided to the independent decision maker, so that they can take a decision on the grant of accreditation or renewal of accreditation. Then information is adequate to decide that the requirements for accreditation has been fulfilled. We can take a decision on the grant or grant of accreditation. If once the decision is made on the accreditation on the basis of evaluation of all the information received or any other relevant information, conformity body shall be notified in writing of the decision, including justification where relevant. Means once the accreditation body has taken a decision on the accreditation, it should immediately be informed to the CAB in writing. It's a shall requirement that it should be notified in writing with the decision, including justification wherever relevant. Using the results of an assessment performed by another AB. There are certain conditions in which CABs are having accreditation from another accreditation body. If one AB is taking decision on the basis of the decision of another AB, suppose for certain scope, CAB has taken accreditation from another accreditation body, and accreditation body A is taking decision on the basis of the accreditation granted by accreditation body B. Then there should be certain policies and procedures for the acceptance of the accreditation decision for another AB. Then accreditation information. Next clause is talking about accreditation information. AB shall provide information on the accreditation to the accredited CAB. And there are certain requirements which accreditation body has to inform to the CAB while granting accreditation. First one is the identity, and where relevant, the accreditation body logo. As Veena madam was telling, every accreditation body has their logo. So accreditation body used to have some certain symbols which their CAB can use on the accredited scope or to prove that they are accredited. So it's a accreditation body's liability that they have to provide the accreditation symbol to the CABs so that they can use it to confirm that they are accredited from that accreditation body. Second one is the name of the accredited conformity assessment body and the name of the legal entity if different. It should be provided by the accreditation body. The scope of accreditation should be provided. Locations of the accredited conformity assessment body as applicable, and the conformity assessment activities performed at each location covered by the scope of accreditation. Whenever any AB is issuing a certificate to a CAB, accredited CAB, they have to provide information of all the locations they have applied for accreditation. AB has granted accreditation. All should be covered in the scope of accreditation. Then unique accreditation identity to all the accredited CABs. Unique accreditation identification means there should be a unique number. You can call it as a certificate number or any unique identity number you can give to the CAB so that they can use it for any further in future. that they are accredited for the particular scope. Then effective date of accreditation has to be mentioned, its expiry date, renewal date, all these information should be provided to the CAB. A statement of conformity and a reference to the international standard needs to be mentioned by AB to the CAB. Other normative documents which are included, which are considered for giving accreditation to the CAB needs to be informed. Then including issue or revision used for assessment of the conformity assessment body. These all things should be provided by the accreditation body to the CAB once they are accredited. The information can be provided in an accreditation certificate on any other suitable means. If you are not issuing, it can be through electronic media also. It's not necessary to issue a hard certificate. Effective date of accreditation shall be the date of or a date after the accreditation decision. It is also defined by 17011 that the accreditation effective date should be either the date on which the decision has taken or any date after decision has been taken. That should be defined by the accreditation body, which issue date they will issue. Then the scope of accreditation shall consist at least the identity of the following. The certification body, whether the scope of accreditation should clearly identify whether it's a certification body, inspection body, calibration laboratory, testing laboratory, proficiency testing providers, reference material producers, validation or verification bodies, or any other conformity assessment bodies. From the scope of accreditation itself, it should be identified the type of laboratory we are giving accreditation to. Then flexible scope of accreditation. This standard 17011 is also giving opportunity for the flexible scope of accreditation. Flexible scope of accreditation means, suppose during the period of accreditation, CAB wants to change the method of calibration they are accredited for. So if the accreditation body is allowing their CAB for the flexible scope, then lab can any point of time during the accreditation can change the method, can opt another method for calibration. That depends on the policy of the accreditation body, whether they will allow for the flexible scope of accreditation or not. Then 7.9 talks about the accreditation cycle, for how long the accreditation cycle can be. It again totally depends on the decision of the accreditation body. An accreditation cycle shall begin at or after the date of the decision for granting the initial accreditation or decision after reassessment, and shall not be longer than 5 years. Standard talks about that the accreditation cycle should not be longer than 5 years. So it depends on the AC's policy and procedure for the accreditation cycle they can define. Then assessment program for assessing CAB activities during the accreditation cycle to ensure that the conformity assessment activity is representative of the scope of accreditation at the relevant locations are assessed during the accreditation cycle. In this standard talks about that the assessment program for assessing CAB should be in such a form, or it should be defined in such a way that it will cover all the locations and it assists all the locations defined by the CAB, should be covered and should be assessed during the accreditation cycle. The plan should be, it's as I told you in the beginning, that assessment process can be a sampling process. It's not necessary that in every assessment you have to cover the entire scope which CAB has applied. It can be on the basis of sampling. But during the accreditation cycle, AB should confirm that all the activities which CAB has applied should be covered at least once, should be assessed at least once. Then assessment program shall, again it's a shall requirement, that assessment program shall ensure that the requirements of the international standards or other normative document containing requirements for the assessment conformity bodies and the scope of accreditation shall be assessed taking risk into consideration. Again, the scope of accreditation, it should be on the basis of decision of the assessment team or the accreditation body on the basis of the scope and the risk included in the scope of accreditation, that the assessment or the scope which needs to be covered. Then a sample of the scope of accreditation shall be at least every 2 years. It's a requirement of the standard that the CAB, the scope they have applied for, should be assessed at least every 2 years. As I was talking about, that it depends on the accreditation body for that how long will be the accreditation cycle. This standard 17011 has given flexibility to the accreditation body for defining the accreditation cycle. In addition to that, this is also giving a shall requirement that the scope of accreditation applied by the CAB should be assessed at least once in 2 years. So CAB has to define the accreditation body has to define the accreditation cycle in such a manner that the scope CAB has applied can be assessed once in 2 years. Then the time between consecutive on-site assessment shall not exceed 2 years. If accreditation body is keeping the accreditation cycle of 5 years, standard allows for the accreditation cycle of 5 years, but they should define a procedure for the CABs for having on-site assessments in every 2 years. However, if the accreditation body defines that an on-site assessment is not applicable, it shall use another assessment technique to achieve the same objective as the on-site assessment, being replaced and justify the use of such techniques. Remote assessments can be done, or a document assessment can be done. AB should define their own procedures on the basis of which they will assess the CAB once in 2 years. Before the end of accreditation cycle, a reassessment shall be planned and performed, taking into consideration the information gathered from the assessments performed over during the accreditation cycle. So again, during the reassessment, it's not necessary to cover the entire scope of accreditation. It can be on the basis of sampling, or the information can be taken from the last assessments, and on the basis of that, assessment plan can be formed and reassessment can be conducted. May conduct extraordinary assessments as a result of complaint or any changes. It's up to the accreditation body. They can perform the any additional assessment during the accreditation cycle of the CAB. So it's totally a accreditation body's decision or policy or procedure that any point of time on the basis of any complaint or any changes CAB has declared, that they can call for an on-site assessment. Then extending accreditation is another clause 7.10. In this, standard talks about documented procedure for extending the scope of accreditation based on the risk associated with the activities or location to be covered in the scope extension. CAB is giving an opportunity to extend their scope during their accreditation cycle at any point of time. CAB can apply for that. And it's the accreditation body's decision how they will do the extension of scope applied by the CAB. There should be a defined procedure for that, for the scope of extension applied by any CAB during the accreditation cycle. Take into account extensions granted when reviewing the assessment program and planning the subsequent assessment. Again, there should be a documented procedure to the AB that how they will review the scope extension applied by the CAP. Then once the accreditation is granted, there are certain adverse decisions also onto that applicable, like suspension, withdrawal, or reducing assessment. Once documented procedure and criteria to decide in which circumstances the accreditation shall be suspended, withdrawn, or reduced. When an accredited conformity assessment body has failed to meet the requirements of the accreditation or to abide by the rules of accreditation and has voluntarily withdrawn, requested a suspension, withdrawal, or reduction. Again, accreditation body should have a defined procedure on basis of which and under which circumstances they will take a decision on accreditation that this the accreditation for the CAB should be suspended or withdrawn. Withdrawn means it's not the entire accreditation can be withdrawn. There are certain conditions in which a certain scope has been withdrawn by the AB, or reduced scope can be reduced by the AB on the basis of certain complaints. It can be a result of outcome of any complaint against the CAP which proved right can be done. Means accreditation body shall have a documented procedure, or there are certain conditions in which CAB itself has applied for voluntary withdrawal. As this accreditation is a voluntary program, it was mentioned in the starting of 17011 that it's a voluntary program. So CAB can any point of time can apply for withdrawal of accreditation. Another condition for taking adverse decision is fraudulent behavior or intentional provision of false information or information not disclosed to the accreditation body, AB to initiate its process for withdrawal of accreditation. Then documented procedure and criteria for lifting suspension of accreditation. As the suspension is a time-bound process, suspension is always granted for a certain period of time. Then accreditation body should have a defined procedure how under which circumstances and how they will lift the suspension given to the accreditation of any CAP. Then complaints and appeals. Complaints again, complaints means if any third party has complained against the accredited CAP, or the AB has come through any come across any fraudulent activity or any false information, then it will be treated as a complaint. Appeal means if accreditation body has taken any decision and CAB is not satisfied with the decision, any point of time CAB can appeal to the accreditation body to review their decision. So CAB accreditation body should have a process, should have a defined procedure to deal with the complaints and appeals. Documented procedure to receive, evaluate, and make decisions on complaints and appeals. It's a shall requirement with the accreditation body. Description of handling process shall be available to have interested to any interested parties. Responsibility for all the decisions at all levels of the handling process. Again, I was telling about that suppose AB has taken any decision against a CAB, but CAB is not happy with the decision. At any point of time, they can appeal to the accreditation body against the decision they have taken. Then investigation and decision shall not result in any discriminatory actions. Here standards means to say that if there is certain procedures followed to a CAB against any complaint or appeal, and the similar a complaint or appeal has been raised by another CAB, then there should not be any discriminatory action. whatever procedures or investigation or decision has been taken for CAB A should be applicable to CAB B. The process to include a description of the process for receiving, validating, investigating the complaint and or appeal and deciding what actions are to be taken in response to it. It should be documented in the procedure of accreditation body. Then tracking and recording complaints, including action undertaken to resolve them. It should be recorded and it should be in the form of records with the accreditation body. They had that how they are tracking the complaints, taking action undertaken to resolve that complaint. Also, accreditation body has to ensure that any appropriate action is taken in a timely manner. There should be a defined timeline for resolving any complaint or appeal. Then acknowledgement receipt of any provided to the complainant or appellant with progress report and the outcome. It is also a requirement of the standard that accreditation body has to provide the acknowledgement to the complainant or appellant. They have to update the complainant or appellant for the progress of their reports, and also they have to inform the outcome of any complaint. Then decision to be communicated shall be made by or reviewed and approved by individual not involved in the activities in question. Again, whenever CAB is, we are receiving, accreditation body is receiving any complaints against a CAB, should be reviewed by an independent person which is not involved in the activity. Accreditation body has to take care of this thing, that the person who is reviewing or approving any decision against the complaint or appeal should be independent of the activity. Then formal notice given of the end of handling of process. There should be formal information to the complainant or appellant that the complaint which we have received or appeal which we have received is closed and should be informed to the complainant or appellant. Then last clause of this standards for the this clause process requirement is 7.14, records on conformity assessment bodies. Again, this standard talks about that accreditation body shall maintain all the required documents on the basis of which they have taken accreditation decision. Records maintained to demonstrate that requirements for the accreditation have been effectively fulfilled. These records has to be maintained by the accreditation body. Then documented policy and documented procedures on the retention of record. AB has to define for the retention period of all the records of the CABs. Records of CAB shall be retained at least for the duration of current cycle, plus the previous full accreditation cycle. This is the requirement of the standard, that AB has to maintain the records of the CAB for duration of the current cycle and previous full accreditation cycle. That's all from my side. Thank you. If any question is there, we can take up the questions.
Yes, madam. We have few questions. One of them has asked duration of assessment accreditation bodies for same scope. I think there are two. I think this can be considered in two ways. One is the duration of assessment, that means generally in NABL we used to do the assessment for 2 days by the assessors of a CAB. Or second, maybe the duration, assessment duration, which is again for 1 year for the desktop surveillance and 2 years for the assessment, reassessment. So these are the two questions, I think, at the same time. So what we should say, whether obviously the duration of assessment may be different, as mentioned in your standard itself, that it may be different, because what the standard says as far as duration of the complete cycle, it says that it should be at least within 2 years.
Yes.
So that means when it has to be completed within 2 years. Let's say an assessment body which want to complete the cycle, let's say in 5 years. So in 5 years, it has to do the desktop surveillance, which will be after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and 4 year. Then after the 5 years, it will do the final assessment. So whether it is required to do how many these desktop surveillance if it is completing in 5 years.
Sir, this standard talks about, as I was telling you, ki, standards requirement is that assessment should be conducted within 2 years.
Yes.
It can
Cycle
be
complete.
assessment, it can be an on-site assessment. It totally depends on the accreditation body, how they define their procedure. If
Okay.
accreditation body is having confidence in the gap that there is no change in the scope of accreditation method, personnel, then they can do the assessment on the basis of documents also. But assessment should be conducted at least within 2 years.
That means after every year they have to go for, or at least 2 years. Within 2 years, they have to complete desktop surveillance. That means in between 5 years for the complete cycle, there will be 2 desktop surveillance and
Correct.
one will be the final assessment. Good.
Correct.
And suppose an assessment body wants to finish one complete cycle in 1 year, let's say. So in that case, there is no need to do the desktop surveillance. Why they will go for the desktop surveillance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right.
Yeah, okay. This is one point. Now the second question comes. Suppose what is this? Let's say NABL. Generally in NABL we used to do 1 day or 2 day. I have done some 1 days also assessments earlier, and generally we used to do 2 days. So and other assessment body, I remember that when we talk about the European bodies, they used to do the assessment for 5 days, and at the international level for one scope, they used to do this assessment for 5 days because they have the different way. We start in the morning and then around night 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock we are working. Then we are submitting the documents on the portal. So the culture is different, I can say. But I hope that this can also be different because there no standard does not speak anywhere that it has to be complete within 2 days or within 5 days. And this is my submission. What do you suggest?
Correct, sir. It's totally accreditation body's decision how they have to plan the assessment. It's on the basis, generally, it's on the basis of the scope of accreditation CAB has applied, availability of the experts in their panel. It depends on that. So some ABs are having only one assessment for the entire scope, one assessor for the entire scope. So they used to give 5 days for a single assessor to cover the entire scope and submit the report. So it's totally a decision of the accreditation body how they want to perform the assessment. And that the requirement of the standard is it should be in consent with the CAB. CAB should in agreement with the assessment plan.
Okay, very good. Yes. So in that case, basically, suppose some accreditation body wants to make, let's say, they are just sending one assessor and who is completing 1 or 2 or 3 scopes, 3 technical scopes, and then one is management scope. Then he can complete within 5 days. That is not an issue. In India, what we used to do for one scope, one assessor, and we used to send 2, 3, 4 assessors. They finish it in 2 days. That is the way how we are working in India. Very good. This is the right answer. And suppose, madam, one assessment body wants to finish this complete one cycle in 1 year. In that case, if it wants to do this desktop surveillance, I think desktop surveillance even not required. If they want to do, then they can do it after 6 months.
Sir, it's again our accreditation body's decision, but standard doesn't talk about anything on it. It's a accreditation body's procedure. If we are talking about the standard requirement, they are telling the assessment should be conducted once in 2 years. Now it's
Yes.
a accreditation body's decision how they want to maintain the accreditation cycle with their CAB.
Okay. So that is okay. That means it depends upon this upon the accreditation body and the
if
CAB.
they are
defining
that they will conduct a assessment within 6 months, they should justify all these things to the during the peer evaluation that the procedure they have defined is because of certain requirements of their CABs or certain requirements of their regulations or regulatories on the basis of which they have taken this decision that within 6 months they will do the assessment.
And secondly, madam, suppose an assessment body is completing this assessment, let's say in 2 years. Sorry, let's say let's say in 2 years. Standard does not speak that this assessment should be the I should say reassessment should be at the at site. Even it can be desktop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
It
again
can
a accreditation body's decision how they have performing, because standards only talk about that assessment has to be conducted, and standard clearly says that it can be a documented assessment.
Yes, documented assessment. So that means it may also be possible for an assessment body that first time they will do the assessment in a thorough way, that all the documents have been seen physically, it is being inspected, and later on, let's say for years together, let's say after within 2 years desktop, again 2 years desktop, again 2 years desktop. So that type of things can also be considered. But we have to be very careful about at the same time that whether the how the cab is actually performing in particular economy.
Right, sir. There is another requirement which we should not forget, that assessment is this standard is saying that the scope which CAB has applied should the entire scope should be assessed during the accreditation cycle. That also we
Yes.
have to consider while figuring out for the desktop surveillance.
Yes, very good, very good. So very good. This is one or two points. And one another thing, somebody is asking, what should be the frequency of internal audit?
Again, standard is not talking about anything. It should be once in a year. Again, CAB has to define the frequency. AB accreditation body can define the frequency for that to their CABs, that it should be once in a year. Standard doesn't talk about anything.
And one thing more, madam. Suppose this internal audit they are doing, it should be done for the whole scope, or let's say in 1 year they are doing for one scope, next year they are doing for the another scope, third year they are doing for the third scope. So that can also be considered as per
The
the standard.
internal audit should cover the entire scope, because CAB is applying for a scope, the accreditation body, and
Okay.
it should cover all the requirements before applying to the for the accreditation. So internal audit
Yes.
should be for the entire scope.
Fantastic. Okay. Next is, madam, whether scope of accreditation is test based or organism based.
Sir, again, this is standard. If we will talk about, it's not saying that the scope of accreditation should be assessed entirely in the first assessment. Standard is clearly saying that during the accreditation cycle, the scope should be covered.
Okay.
So it can be on the sampling basis also.
Okay. Somebody is asking, unannounced assessments are a requirement of the standard. Unannounced. That means the assessment, which is a surveillance, we can say surprise inspection.
Yes, sir. Again, standard is giving a authority to the accreditation body that they can perform the assessment or a visit or any unannounced assessment to the CAB on the basis of links are there or any fraudulent information they are having. So they can conduct any extraordinary assessment during the accreditation cycle. It's a may requirement, and this standard is giving a provision to the accreditation body to do the extraordinary assessments during the accreditation cycle.
Okay, so which clause is better than this? Can you let us know which clause?
It's the 7.9.
Okay.
I will tell you the sub clause also. Just a second. Uh, 7.9.5.
Okay, 7.9.5.
Yeah, I will read out. It says accreditation body may conduct extraordinary assessments as a result of complaints or any changes or other matters that may affect the ability of the CAB to fulfill the requirements of the accreditation. So the standard is giving provision to the accreditation body that they can do any extraordinary assessments to the CAB.
Okay. So this will be extraordinary.
Yeah.
Very good. And we have done this. I think, ma'am, this is enough, and we do not have more questions. But it is very good that you have explained it in a very well manner, and certainly, when I can understand, then everybody can understand.
Right.
So it is very useful session, ma'am. Now, what is the next plan is, because we have time for 1 hour. If you want to take 5 minutes break, we can take 5 minutes break. Otherwise, we can continue with the next class.
Okay, sir. Just give me 5 minutes. I will just come
Okay.
up with my presentation
Yeah,
and we will.
yeah.
Sure.
For the next class, right? 7.
Yeah.
Now you will go for the 8th class, huh?
Right, sir.
Now we will go to the 8th class. Very good. All right, madam. Please. We can just have 5 minutes break, and then we will start after 5 minutes with the next class. Yeah, please. So basically, what we understand from this whole class since morning, and is this standard. Basically, if we talk about the scope, the most important point which I basically learned from the whole day exercise, it is applicable to testing, calibration. Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not talking with you. I'm talking with my participants. You please take a 5 minutes break.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, it is talking about the testing, calibration, inspection, certification of management systems, persons, products, process, and services, provision of proficiency testing, production of reference materials, validation and verification. So basically, for all activities, whenever we are going to form an accreditation body, whether it is like NABL, NABCB, or any other bodies in India which are already working, we can go for all the processes. I don't understand that whether somebody has or not the certification in the new fields which I'm just observing today about the validation and the verification. I don't know if somebody has, kindly put it in the chat box that they have this assessment, conformity assessment, or they are the CAPs. They have taken the accreditation for validation and the verification. Testing, calibration, and inspection, we have seen. Certification of management systems, we have seen. Persons, yes, we are also hearing that. I have also learned that persons are also being accredited now. Products, we know. Process and services, also we are aware of that. So basically, rest of the things we are aware. But as far as validation and verification, these two things are concerned, I am not aware whether somebody has the accreditation. If somebody has, kindly put it in the chat box, and from which body they have taken in India, kindly let us know. Then what I observe from this discussion, basically, as far as accreditation is concerned, it is very simple. Accreditation body, the function of this 17011 is one step higher than the 17025. Actually, one is the accreditation body, which is accrediting the labs, that is CAPS. So accreditation body will be accrediting to a laboratory which is performing the functions which we have just discussed, like testing, calibration, reference materials, etc. CAB, we are all aware, which are already either 17025, 15189, or other standards they are having. We are all aware about the conformity assessment activity, scope of accreditation, we are all aware of that. Flexible scope of accreditation, basically scope we are all aware what is the scope. And when we talk about the flexible, it expressed to allow conformity assessment bodies, CAPS, to make changes in methodology and other parameters which fall within the competence of the conformity assessment body as confirmed by the accreditation body. But what I observe in India, I had a large number of assessments with the help of this NABL, that generally we don't have the flexible type of accreditation, which what is mentioned. I think that we somewhere we assessors or the community does not think out of the box. But when this standard speaks that the scope can be flexible, yes, I think it is very good. When I can do the calibration of, let's say, 1 milligram weight, I can also do the calibration of 10 milligram weights if I have the competence, if I have the facility of the equipment, and basically procedure is the same, person is the same. So competency, whether he is doing 1 milligram or 10 milligram, it is the same thing. I hope that this flexibility, let's say somebody has taken a particular, in a particular parameter up to some level, or let's say up to some scope, up to some capacity, and if he wants to enhance, if he wants to do something better, we should have this provision of flexible scope of accreditation. It is, I think, very good. Secondly, we can also consider why it is always after 2 years. It can also be considered for 5 years. It can also be think of that, so after 2 years, whether we are doing this desktop surveillance, and let's say again after 2 years we are doing that desktop, and then after 5 years we are doing, because this is again a big process which takes a lot of time of the lab also. All the people are working for 1 month, and whether we are also having this much capacity or capability to finish this job within time. Suppose a person or a cab is submitting an application, whether we are able to fulfill its requirement, whether there is a delay or not. Because what we observe, it is difficult. If the work is more, we should have to find some ways. Accreditation scheme, we are all aware. Accreditation activity, we are all aware. Task of accreditation processes. Impartiality, obviously we are all aware that a cab should not involve in doing the consultancy work, or it should not help. But what as far as this impartiality is concerned, if we just go through it, objectivity means presence of objectivity. Objectivity means that conflict of interest do not exist or are resolved so as not to adversely influence subsequent activities of accreditation body or AB. That means there should not be any conflict of interest. Even we talk about the cabs. Every cab in India is aware of that. All the persons whosoever are working in the cabs, they are aware of that. That there should not be any conflict of interest. For example, there should not be any financial gain. There should not be any type of like bonus or any type of any promotion. That means the flexibility or the something which can be offered to a person who is doing large number of calibrations or who is doing something extra. That is conflict of interest. We are aware of that. And secondly, but what I observe, if we talk about the second point also, it says other terms that are useful in conveying the element of impartiality include independence. Yes, it is very much required. Should be independence. In the cab also, we stop that the technical person is completely independent. He is not having any pressure from the top management. Top management is not asking how he is doing, what he is doing. Freedom from conflict of interest. Yes, obviously in the same factory we are having the laboratories also. So, and it is somewhere difficult to say yes, on paper we can say that there's no conflict of interest, but whether it is or not, I don't know, because in the same factory we are having the laboratory. There is a, let's say it's a pharma industry, and pharma industry is having the testing laboratory or the calibration laboratory of its own. I don't know whether they will say that this product is correct or not, whether they will be how it can be managed. That is again a big point. So that's why the concept is of third party. And second is freedom from conflict of interest, freedom from biasness. Yes, obviously, when you are working in the same company, the individual will also be biased. If I am working in my company and something happens for my company or for my organization, so 100% I am biased with my organization. I would not like that there should be any problem for my organization. Lack of prejudice, yes, it is very important. Neutrality, yes, it is required. Fairness, open-mindedness, even handedness, detachment, and balance. So these all are very clear about this. We are all aware of that this is basically the conflict of interest, or basically we can say impartiality. But what I observe, whether when we are doing, we are being this assessment body, it cannot do the consultancy work, or it cannot simply advise the laboratories how to do. In my sense, I feel that when an accreditation body is helping the industry, or is helping the industry, means my industry means cab here, is helping the cab how to develop the standard, what you require. So all these things, I think that this is not the conflict of interest. Basically, you are just growing it up. that what you need. And it is not the consultancy. You're not getting, and if there is no financial gain or something, I think CAB, this AB should help the CAB in making this facility, or to develop this facility in such a way the laboratory can, or the CAB can perform better. CAB can say what is my requirement. If I am not aware of that, suppose some manufacturer comes to me, we are large, we are doing the, let's say, legal metrology work. There are many manufacturers who are very small. They don't know how to fill up the form on the form application, online application. They don't know. So we used to say, okay, no problem. You please come, bring these 2, 3, 4, 5 documents with you, and we will help you to submit the application. So I don't know, see what's wrong in it. Basically, the purpose is to help. Where is the biasness? Anybody who is coming, we are providing this facility, so we are not biased with anybody. And if we say that conflict of interest, what is our interest in that case? Yes, at one part we can say, because we are the CAB, and we are the AB, we want to have more and more CABs. But this is not like that. I don't understand it is correct or not. So my point is how we can help the CABs. That is very important, so that the CAB can develop, or CAB can know, CAB should know, CAB can understand what is the requirement which they have to fulfill. What are the equipments they need actually? What are the documents they need actually? What are the forms and formats they have to prepare actually? So, or we can simply give them a format, this type of format, just model format, model documents, which can be used by any of the laboratory, any of the CAB, and that can prepare with the help of that document, their support. Because as I know, after doing this much work in India, and even I am the international expert, I am an OML expert. What I observe internationally, what I feel, what I saw, when even internationally also people requested me to do their assessments for the legal metrology laboratories. So what I feel, what I observe, if you have a pro forma application, simple application pro forma, or simple documentation pro forma, I should say, the CAB can easily prepare the documents, because methods are the same. Whether we talk about any of the equipment, any of the testing procedure, any of the calibration procedure, they are not different. They are all same everywhere. I think because generally we are following the international standards, whether it is the ASTM, or whether it is MID standards, so, or OML standards, or ISO standards, they are the same. So we can form a policy in such a way so that this type of things can be done. Even the experts who are listening over here, we can come together and we can prepare these type of documents, put it in the public domain. Yes, this type of things, you can do it. You can get it easily. In India, since morning, we are very well aware. Why we are doing these type of programs? To just create an awareness, to know what is the requirement of the country today. We have to develop these standards in our country. Otherwise, tomorrow, if our tests and calibrations are not correct, we can never be a developed country. We will be like this only. But today, if you will see, if you just go out, what type of roads we are having? Wonderfully. Even I think that we are not far behind from a developed or a European or an American country or America like that. Nowadays, things are moving very fast, and after this prevention of this polythene, I think after 1 or 2 or 3 years, we will be finding that even environment is also going to be okay. Otherwise, there's a lot of this garbage is being created regularly, which was taking a lot of time for the degradation. So these things are happening in our country. We have to come closer. We have to develop in such a way that more and more number of laboratories are accredited by NABL, are accredited by 17025 body, and they are actually working in a proper way. Yes, we are what is actually required, and it can only be possible when we have this facility in our country, or we are actually helping them. Otherwise, certainly they will be just looking towards the consultants how to get this work done. And I tell you, if I am getting this document from a consultant, if I am not preparing, if I am just giving them a background, what actually need. If he prepares himself, certainly to do very good, and he will learn what to do. Otherwise, he will be running towards this consultant part, and certainly he will not learn. He will not understand what actually he is doing and what actually he requires. So my thing is, my request to the experts, we have to form a platform where the documents, free of cost documents, are available, like this type of trainings which we are providing. Free of cost documents are available. Anybody can go, and suppose I have to start tomorrow after my retirement, after some years, I have to start, let's say, a laboratory of electrical testing, and I should know what are the documents required, See, I have not done the work in this for NABL for 17025 laboratories. I don't know what is the document, but when I saw what are the documents, when filling the blanks are there, you have to put your name. Then I will read what is this line. Certainly, slowly, I will learn myself. Otherwise, what I will do, I will find, okay, this is, let's say somebody will take 25,000 rupees. I will pay 25,000 rupees. He will prepare the document for me. Not prepare, he will be just go get copied, cut and paste only, and he will give me the document. I will never read the document. I will just put it on the website. Somebody will come, he will assess as we are doing. He will assess and give the assessment, give the action. But I will never learn. So my request is that we should also learn what we are doing and why we are doing. These are the two things which I wanted to discuss with the participants. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, please you continue. So, otherwise, I will take more time. Thank you. Please.
Sure, sir, sure. I will just share. So now come to the clause number 8, which talks about the information requirements for the AB accreditation body. This clause first talks about the confidential information, which accreditation body is taken from the CABs. So this clause 811 talks about that the accreditation body shall have responsible for the management of all the information obtained or created during the accreditation process. The accreditation body shall inform the CAB in advance of the any information intends to place in public domain. Standard is very clear that except for the information that the CAB makes publicly available, accreditation body cannot make any information related to the CAB which they have taken during the accreditation process in public domain unless there is a clear consent from the CAB or when agreed between the accreditation body and CAB. And all information obtained during the accreditation process is considered the information and shall be regarded as confidential. Accreditation body has to keep all the information confidential against the CAB which they have gathered during the accreditation process. This is a shall requirement from the standard. Then 812 talks about that when the accreditation body is required by the law or authorized by contractual arrangements to release confidential information, CAB shall, unless prohibited by the law, should be notified for the information accreditation body is providing. Third one is information about the CAB obtained from the sources other than the conformity body. Like in form of complaint from any third party or any other person shall be confidential between the CAB and the accreditation body or between the source from which complaint has been received and the accreditation body. It should not be disclosed with the CAB against which the complaint has been made, or accreditation body should not disclose the source from which complaint has been made to the accreditation body unless it has been provided by the source that it can be disclosed. This is the shall requirement again for the accreditation body. Then it talks about the personnel, including any committee member, contractors, personal or external bodies, individuals acting on the accreditation body's behalf shall keep confidential all the information obtained or created during the performance of accreditation body's activities, except as required by the law. That's why we are saying that the assessor has to sign a confidentiality form that they will not disclose any information which they have come across during the assessment. It's a accreditation body's responsibility to keep all the information of the CAB confidential. Then 8.2 talks about publicly available information. Accreditation body shall make publicly available the following information. This standard has clearly defined the information which can be publicly available of the CABs. First one is information about the accreditation body. The information about the authority under which accreditation body operates. It should be publicly available. A description of accreditation body's rights and duties. It should be publicly available for all. General information about the means by which the accreditation body obtains financial support. It should be disclosed. Information about the accreditation body's activity other than accreditation also should be available in public domain. Information about international recognition arrangements in which it is involved. Like accreditation body, if they have signed MRA with any international organization like APAC or ILEC, it should be disclosed publicly. Then information about the accreditation process which AB has to declare is declared information about his accreditation scheme, including his assessment and accreditation process. These things should be available publicly. Reference to the documents containing the requirements for accreditation. Then general information about the fees related to the accreditation. A description of rights and obligations of the conformity assessment bodies. Information on procedures for lodging and handling complaints and appeals should be publicly available. Information on the use of accreditation symbol or other claims of accreditation. All these things should be publicly available for information from the accreditation body. Then as a minimum, the accreditation body shall make publicly available without request information on CAB as described in 781. 781 talks about the scope of accreditation which accreditation body is issuing to the CAB can be publicly available. And wherever applicable, information on suspension or withdrawal of accreditation, including dates and scope, should be available publicly from accreditation body. There is a note which says that in exceptional cases, access to certain information can be limited on the request of conformity assessment body for security reasons. Means CAB can request AB for not disclosing certain informations if there are certain security reasons behind it. The accreditation body shall give due notice for any changes to its requirements of accreditation. It's a standard requirement that they should take into account the views expressed by the interested parties before deciding on the precise form and effective date of changes. Standard says that whenever accreditation body is making any changes in its requirement, it should be views should be taken from the interested parties onto that before implementing those changes. Then following a decision on and a publication of the changed requirements, the accreditation body shall verify that each accredited CAB is conforming to those requirements. If like for example, there are certain changes in the requirements of the accreditation body. As we say that this 17011 has revised in 2017. 17025 has also revised. So there are certain changes in 17025 and 17011. So it's a responsibility of the accreditation body that they have to verify whether all the accredited CABs are conforming to the changes in the requirements. They have to define a certain procedures how they will confirm that all the CABs are means conforms to the changes in the requirements. It's accreditation body's responsibility. Then next clause talks about management system requirements, in which it will cover 8 sub-clauses: journal management system, document control, records control, non-conformities and corrective actions, improvement, internal audits, and management review. There was a question regarding.
Madam, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Madam, actually, if you just go through on this clause 7.9.3.
Okay.
You will, if you don't mind, we'll close. We'll take it later on.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
7.9.3.
7.9.3. Just a second, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Should I share it?
It's,
Yeah.
you have to again. You have to unshare it, then again share.
Yeah, I will share, sir. Yeah. 793, sir.
Yes. Very good. Yeah, it says, before going to another point, I would like to take 2-3 points which are not actually clear to me. One is, it says a sample of the scope of accreditation shall be assessed at every 2 years. So that means even for the assessment when you are doing, when an AB is doing for a cab, it is not required to do the whole assessment.
Sir, here it is talking about within 2 years, sample of the scope is to be done, right? In the next clause, I will tell you that it is saying during the accreditation cycle, all the scope of accreditation should be covered.
Yes.
There is another clause talking about
Okay.
scope.
Yes. The whole scope should be covered.
Yeah, right. Within the accreditation cycle.
Okay. Time between consecutive on-site assessments shall not exceed 2 years.
Yes.
That means on-site assessment has to be done.
Yes, sir.
It is necessary. Otherwise, they have to do the remote assessment. If they can't do the desktop, this on-site assessment is within 2 years. That is okay. But
Yes.
for this desktop assessment,
Mm-hmm.
the on-site assessment is basically they are not talking about the desktop assessment.
So they are talking about the assessment by document review. So in the first clause, they are saying that if you are doing a sampling of scope of accreditation applied by the CAB, so rest of the scope you can take a decision on the basis of review of documents.
Okay.
Yeah, I will tell you. Clause number is in the first itself, it is telling in assessment planning, they were taking.
Okay. Yes, document review, I remember.
Yeah,
You have mentioned.
yeah, right.
You have mentioned some document review was there. Agreed. So that means for the document review, we can say this is desktop, and otherwise, not necessary that the second assessment or the final one cycle completion should be this. This can be remote also
Yes, remote also.
for the, yeah, for one complete.
Yes, yes.
We're discussing. Okay, so okay, that means one cycle will be, let's say, suppose an accreditation body decides for 2 years they can do this because I don't understand whether this is my doubt. Because I'm not aware of, I'm not the I've never used this standard, and maybe that other person may also be having the same type of doubts.
Yes.
I don't know whether or not, but don't take it otherwise. कुछ लोगों की बुद्धि मोटी
अरे
होती है,
नहीं
तो हमारे जैसे लोगों की होती है, देखने में समझ में आता है. तो अभी क्या है कि now what I understand, when you are talking about this that they have to complete this cycle, let's say an assessment body, an AB does the complete the cycle in 2 years. So whether it requires a desktop surveillance also in between when it is completing within 2 years?
Sir, nahi. Standard only says that on-site surveillance should be done within 2 years. If you have a cycle of 2 years and AB has decided that to review the compliance of the requirement of the accreditation, they will do the desktop surveillance annually. It's totally a AB's decision that they will do it. A standard requirement is on-site assessment has to be conducted within 2 years. Sir, again, if the point is, if the AB is taking a cycle of 2 years, and if they are not able to conduct the assessment within 2 years, then again it's a violation of 17011. Renewal assessment should be done within 2 years. On-site assessment.
Renewal should be but on-site or remote.
On-site or remote, anyway.
On-site, yeah. That means, let's say within 2 years, if an AB is completing one cycle, then whether it is remote or it is online on-site, that is not a question dispute. There is no dispute. But in that case, whether it is necessary as per the standard to do the desktop surveillance also in between?
No, sir.
No, because within they are mentioning about the 2 years. That was the only point I was just thinking.
Standard also talks that the whatever scope cap has applied should be covered within the accreditation cycle. If your accreditation cycle is 2 years,
Yes.
you have to define the procedure in which you will assess the accreditation scope at least once during the accreditation.
Very good, very good. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I was having some doubt at that time. I could not ask. So when I read again, I thought that I must clear it now. Otherwise, tomorrow I will be you are sleeping and just thinking it was not clear.
Question resolves many things.
Thank you very much, ma'am. There is another question from one of the participants. He says whether a cab can organize NABL awareness training program. What is the problem? NABL awareness training program. Why he says about NABL awareness? He can always say 17025. As today we are talking about 17011.
Yes.
17025 is yeah.
He cannot use any AB's name, but he can do awareness. Always accredited cab can do, or any cab or any person can do a awareness program for 17025. Actually, we always encourage our accredited cab to do the 17025 program for their customers.
Good, very good. Yes, obviously, because it is. Yeah, it is good. Thank you. So this is, yes, they can, but it is better not to say a particular cab, a particular AB name. They can simply say about the standard, as we are doing about the standard. Another question is, ma'am, if ISO 17011 is accredited, certified, that particular industry, it is like enabled to do accreditation? Yes.
I don't understand what he is trying to say.
What he's asking, if ISO 17011 is accredited, certified. Actually, what I feel, he just want to say that one of the organization or any of the industry has got ISO 17011. That means they are accredited under this standard. So whether they will work like NABL, obviously they will work like an AB.
Yes.
I have to say in NABL, they will work like an AB. They will be, yes. So they will be working like an AB.
As in the morning, Reena madam was telling about certain international organizations like APAC, ILAC, IAS. These organizations are there. So there are certain organizations which we have created, like APAC is Asia Pacific Accreditation this council. So whatever CAB is implementing 17011, they have to be evaluated by some other organization. So if they are meeting the requirements of APAC, they can anyway do the assessment accreditations as per 17011.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So, ma'am, I think this is very much, most of the things are very clear, and certainly we'll again ask the questions where I will receive. Now, you please continue, ma'am. Please.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So next clause is clause number 9, management system requirements. It will cover management system, document control, records control, non-conformities and corrective actions, improvements, internal audits, and management reviews for accreditation body. So this clause first talks about the establish, document, implement, and maintain a management system that is capable of supporting and demonstrating the consistent achievement of the requirements of this document. Policies and objectives related to the competence, consistency of operation, and impartiality. Top management to assign responsibility and authorities for ensuring the policies and processes needed for the management system are established and implemented, and reporting to top management on performance of management system or any need for improvement. There are two options given. First talks about the accreditation body's management system. Yeah. Management shall establish and document policies and objectives related to the competence, consistency of operation, and impartiality. Then management shall provide evidence to its commitment to the development and implementation of the management system in accordance with the requirement of this document. Then accreditation bodies, top management shall assign responsibility and authority for ensuring that policies of the management system are implemented, reporting to the top management on the performance of the management system. Then under option A, it talks about the management system of the accreditation body shall address the following, which we will see in the next clauses, like management system, document control, control of records, non-conformities, corrective actions, internal audits, and management review. And option B talks about an accreditation body that has established and maintained a management system in accordance with the requirement of ISO 9001. And this is capable of supporting and demonstrating the consistent fulfillment of this requirement, fulfills at least the management system section requirement. So accreditation body can choose either of the options, either option A or option B. In option B, it talks about if the accreditation body is already accredited as per 9001, ISO 9001, so they can skip these things which in which management system has already covered in 9001. So they can go for option B. So now we will talk about management system requirements as per option A. It is saying the accreditation body shall operate a management system appropriate to the type, range, and volume of work performed. All applicable requirements of this document shall be addressed either in a manual or in associated documents. Shall ensure that the manual and relevant associated documents are accessible to the personnel and shall be effectively implemented in the management system process. So this standard says that accreditation body should have a management system document and should be available to all the applicable personnel. Then AB shall continually improve effectiveness of its management system in accordance with the requirement of this document. There should be documented procedure for that also. Then document control. AB has certain requirements for the document control. Shall establish documented process to control all the documents. Procedure shall be defined to approve documents for adequacy prior to issue, to review and update as necessary, and reapprove documents. There should be procedure, documented procedure fulfilling all the requirements, like to prevent the unintended use of obsolete documents. So they should have a procedure, AB should have a procedure for obsolete documents. For retain of the obsolete documents for any purpose, that also should be defined in the procedure. To safeguard where relevant, the confidentiality of the documents should also be defined in the procedure under document control. All the AVs should follow this. Then records control, it talks the accreditation body shall establish documented procedure to define the controls needed for the identification, storage, protection, retrieval, retention time, and deposition of its record. It's again a shall requirement that all the AVs should have a defined procedure for records control. Then accreditation body shall establish documented procedure for retain of the records, period consistent with its contractual obligation. Access to these records shall be consistent with the confidentiality arrangement. They should have a access control for the documents, the records. Then non-conformities and corrective actions. Then the accreditation body shall establish documented procedure for the identification and management of the non-conformities in its own operations. Means whenever there is a peer evaluation for any accreditation body, there are non-conformities and corrective actions. They should have a proper procedure for the non-conformities and the corrective actions. Then accreditation body shall also, where necessary, take actions to eliminate the causes of non-conformities in order to prevent recurrence. Then corrective action shall be appropriate to the impact of the problem encountered. Procedure shall cover that identification of the non-conformity from internal audits, complaints, and other sources. This accreditation body should have their own procedures to identify their own non-conformities. Then determining the cause of non-conformity, then correcting the non-conformity, evaluating the need for actions to ensure that non-conformity does not reoccur, determining the actions needed and implementing them in a timely manner, and recording the results of the action taken and reviewing the effectiveness of the corrective actions. These all should be defined in the procedure against non-conformities and corrective actions. Then next is improvement. The accreditation body shall establish documented procedure to identify opportunity for improvement and to identify risk and take appropriate actions. It should be, as Madam in clause 4.4, she has defined that improvement is a continual process, and all the AVs should have a procedure for that to identify the risk and take appropriate actions onto that. Then next clause talks about the internal audit. Internal audit, the accreditation body shall establish documented procedure for internal audit to verify that the accreditation body conforms to the requirement of this document and the management system is implemented and maintained. Internal audit shall be performed normally once in a year. An internal audit performed shall be established, taking into consideration the importance of the processes and areas to be audited, as well as the results of previous audits. Then it should, the frequency of internal audit may be reduced. It depends on the accreditation body that demonstrates the management system and effective implementation according to the document that has proven stability. Then accreditation bodies shall ensure that the internal audit are conducted by the competent personnel, knowledgeable in accreditation, auditing, and requirement of this document. Internal audits are conducted by the personnel different from those who perform the activity to be audited. Personnel responsible for the area audited are informed to the outcome of the audit. Actions are taken in timely and appropriate manner, and opportunities for improvement are identified. These all things should be covered during the internal audit, and we have to, AV has to take care that competent personnel and knowledgeable person who is having the knowledge of accreditation and auditing should do the internal audit. Then management review. The accreditation body's management review shall establish documented procedure to review its management system at planned interval to ensure its continuing adequacy and effectiveness in satisfying the relevant requirements, including this document, and that states policy and objectives. The review shall be conducted at least once in a year. Inputs to management review shall include current performance and opportunities for the improvement related to following. These 5 points should be covered during the management review, like results of the internal audits, results of peer evaluation, participation in international activity, safeguarding impartiality, and feedback from the interested parties. This should be the agenda points for the management reviews. New areas of accreditation, trends in non-conformity, status of corrective action, status of actions to address risk and opportunity, follow-up actions from earlier management review, fulfillment of objective, changes that can affect the management system, analysis of appeals, analysis of complaints. These all should be discussed during the management review meetings. Then outcomes from the management review shall include the action points like improvement of the management system, improvement of services and accreditation process, then need for resources, and defining or redefining policies, goals, and objectives. These are the requirements of the management review. So with this, we have covered clause 8 and 9 also. So if there are any questions on the information requirement and document control, then we can go through it, sir.
Yes, ma'am. We have
Yes.
a few questions.
Yeah.
He is asking, my question is 17011 is like an accreditation board. So 17011 is a standard.
170
question,
is a standard which accreditation body has to follow.
yes, like CAB has to comply 17025, an accreditation body like NABL or NABCB has to comply with 17011.
Yes.
Next is, if an AB is not have expert at the time of renewal, then what they have done, well, that means what they should do. If the expert is not available at the time of renewal, then what to do? It's a very good question. See, then,
Actually, on the, if I will talk as per the standard, it's AB's decision, AB's policy. AB has to define if in this situation how they have to do it, because standard doesn't talk about anything. Standard is only saying that whenever AB has received any application, they have to review their resources first and then confirm whether the assessment can be conducted and in which manner.
yes. Otherwise, the person who has done this document adequacy, he can be asked to do the assessment also.
So it's again AB's decision how they will do it. It's again their procedure.
Yes.
Under this situation, how they will react.
Yes. Otherwise, it is difficult, because otherwise it is expected that an accreditation body must be having large a bank of the assessors or the experts.
I must say yes, because whenever any accreditation body is defining its scope, for this certain scope to the accreditation, so they should have a resource for that. Then only they can give accreditation for that.
Yes, because I remember that this even in India, Enable used to conduct large number of training programs for the assessors. I think every year large number of training programs to make the assessors. Large number of people are already assessors. So accreditation bodies are.
Yeah. Generally, AB's way of working is first they will develop their expertise, then they will launch the program.
Yes, good, very good. This is the only way how we should work. So I don't think that anybody has any other question. If an AB, yeah, I think my more or less questions are okay. Whether a CAB can organize, yes, we have done, we have replied. Most of the questions we have replied. Can AB operate from different locations? Yes, why not?
Yes, yes.
when a cab can operate from different locations, AB can also operate from the different locations.
Yes, yes. They can define, they have to define their location to their peer evaluators.
Yes. Somebody has write a big comment. Actually, it's not a question, I should say. NABL or QCI both are not government organizations. Obviously, they are basically, but under the umbrella of government only. No? They are not government, but they are working under the department, like earlier in DST, now in DPIT. So they are working somewhere under the umbrella of government, but came into light through Society Registration Act 1860. Okay, the act clearly indicates that to have all India operations, there must be equal representation from other states. There has not been such representation from other states. Indication of violation of society legal requirements. The simple and complex question is that how this NABL or QCI have got legal identity. All right, basically, I think that when we are registered as society for the India for all India basis, then only it needs that it should have working in 2 different states. That is the only condition. I think we have. If they will see, they must be complying. It is not possible because the organizations they are working since long, they must be complying. I don't think so that it is not like that. Somebody is writing last big para that BIS on BIS conformity assessments or BIS this basically we used to issue these under this BIS some compulsory registration scheme or some compulsory testing also required. So they are saying that it is not being implemented. Obviously, India is that we can say that India is a big country, and until unless the information is received, how to check each and every shop, it is somewhere difficult. But anyway, these people are working well. So this is I think this is the only thing which we wanted to share with all the participants. Thank you very much, ma'am. I would not like to waste the time of anybody. And when we have finished it before time, certainly we would like to finish it before time. The people can do something better than this program. And certainly tomorrow we'll be having us in the morning around 11 at 11 o'clock. We will start again tomorrow at 11, and again in the second session we will be continuing in the same way. With this, ma'am, thank you very much. With all the participants, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Actually, I have covered all the clauses today itself. So I will join tomorrow definitely. Yeah. 3 clauses, 7, 8, 9, all the 3 are covered today only.
Very good, very good. Now people must be, as I was having some doubts, tomorrow people must be having large number of doubts and they must be writing. So we will discuss it tomorrow. So ma'am, I think you can join tomorrow morning you will join or afternoon you will join?
Morning would be fine, sir.
Okay, morning, 11 o'clock.
Yeah. 11 o'clock.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All the participants, thank you very much. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock.